Hello, testing. Is this thing on?
Yo, welcome to the Shady Monkey Show. Happy Chinese New Year, Year of the Dragon. Big thanks to our sponsor, Oriental Distilling Company, for sponsoring us with the best gin in the world. I have a very special guest here today.
Special. Special is a strong word.
Seth from where?
Massachusetts,
I almost said Michigan. I knew it was an M. Massachusetts.
One of the M states.
So Boston?
Nah, I wish. I'm from, I feel like the east and the west of Massachusetts are pretty good, but the middle is kind of awful, and that's where I'm from.
Now, Massachusetts, that's like a relatively small state, right?
Yeah, it's pretty small.
So like the middle is like the size of...
Yeah, probably like your apartment complex. It's near Worcester. I'm near Worcester, Mass. If anyone's familiar with the second biggest city in Massachusetts. I'm close to the NBA Basketball Hall of Fame. That's in Massachusetts, not too far from me.
Wow.
It's in like Springfield or something. I don't know why they decided to put it there, honestly, but I think it's close. But yeah, Massachusetts. It's probably cold there right now, so I'm glad I'm here.
Yeah, it's probably freezing.
Hard pass on that cold weather.
Yeah, but it's terrible here in the summertime.
I would take summer here over winter there, anytime. I wish we had summer here all year round. Like right now, it's kind of cold. I got to wear long pants sometimes. I'm not about that. I want like shorts and flip-flops weather, 12 months of the year.
All right. Well, cheers, dude.
Oh, that is good. Everyone else who says it's great on the podcast was not lying.
It's not. Is it too strong?
No.
You told me to go light.
I can do one strong one at the beginning.
I need to
make
adjust
it lighter
the light.
and
Do
lighter.
you mind? Let's just pointing that light at me.
I can.
Sorry, I moved. Don't need. Just grab the light. Yeah. Yeah, you can even just grab the umbrella. Perfect. Sorry, I moved it when we were trying to squeeze through. I forgot about it.
It's sort of in the way for passing.
Yeah. But yeah, I love this gin, and it's very. I can drink a lot and have like a great day, tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
I can't remember the last time I drank anything, a lot of it, and then had a good next day.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just getting old though.
Yeah, that's also. I definitely noticed that as I'm getting older.
Yeah,
like my early days of China, because I was never a big drinker until
you got here.
Until I got here, I rarely drank. Maybe a couple beers on the weekend or something. But there was a time here where I was drinking all the time, and definitely like when I'm older now, it's harder to wake up.
Oh yeah,
in a good mood.
I feel like back in college, you could like go out with your friends like the whole night, just putting them back, and you get back to the apartment, you like drink a water bottle full of water, go to bed, you wake up the next day fine. And now I'm like, well, I had 3 beers right before bed, and now I can't feel my head. So that's an unfortunate side effect of getting older.
Yeah, well, I think you're younger than me.
Yeah,
probably
34.
a good decade. Yeah, 10 years.
You're talking about the .com bust in one of the podcasts, and I was like, yeah, I wasn't old enough for that really. And you were working during it, so you got to have a couple years on me.
That was like 2001, 2001 and 2002.
I was in like 6th grade.
Yeah.
I'm the oldest person in most groups of my friends, but it looks like you got me beat.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm usually like, besides 1 or 2 guys, I think I'm the oldest.
You've probably been here the longest too. Like every person on the podcast has been here not quite as long as you, except for maybe Sean. He might have had you beat.
Sean had me beat, and I think that was it. But a lot of people, most people I've had on the podcast have been here for
a while,
at least 5 years. Mm-hmm.
You don't have any new guys on the podcast.
No freshies.
All Shenzhen.
The problem is I don't know it. Like
you haven't met him yet.
These days, like COVID kind of changed my whole social life. Like pre-COVID. I used to go out a lot more and be more social and meet new people, and then COVID kind of locked that down. And then also like Mambo, when we closed Mambo, that kind of like killed the last of my social scene.
I didn't realize that you were involved with Mambo until I was listening to Sean's podcast actually, because so you guys were doing food and beverage stuff obviously for that one, and I think I met you at Mambo, but I didn't realize that you were like involved with the restaurant.
Yeah, so like I wasn't there from the very beginning. I joined like a year into their business, and then there was like two partners that had a big fight, and one left, and I pretty much like bought into his shares of the business, and it was great. Pre-COVID, Mambo was
I went for a couple months, like right before COVID, end of 2019, when you did that film and acting meetup on Sundays.
Oh yeah,
I think that's how I met you. I'd heard your name floating around Shenzhen from like when I very first got here. Shady Monkey Hip Hop was maybe at the end of the party scene when I first got here in 2015. So
yeah, probably
your name was something that I'd heard, but I hadn't actually met you, I don't think, until 2019 at Mambo. And you were like, hey, I'm Shady. You introduced yourself to someone. I was like, wait, what? That's it? He's an actual person? I thought he was just some sort of like urban legend.
Right.
I've been here so long and never met this person. At first I thought it was just like a hip hop group, and there wasn't actually a person. It was just like the name of the group.
Well, it started off like as a person, and then I started doing like the parties. I was doing it by myself, and then like by the third one, like I met like a DJ and an MC, and then
so you had a whole team
invited them to join, and then once we had the team, that's when it really just kind of popped off, and then it became like the Shady Monkey Hip Hop, you know. But still, originally it was I just used it as my internet name.
Yep.
You know,
I think it was just you before I got here. I think by the time I got here, you had that group going.
Yeah. So, and then like as soon as had the retirement from the parties, and that's when I decided to get into the F&B business and join Mambo. It was kind of like.
So you were Mambo for a couple years then.
Yeah, like 7-8 years. So it was a while, you know. So
another casualty of COVID. Shway got kind of wrecked by COVID.
It was the worst, dude.
I feel like pre-COVID, I would go there and there's like all sorts of restaurants, all sorts of cool stuff, and then like halfway through COVID, it was like, yeah, there's nothing in Shway anymore.
Yeah, and then plus like it was always like the first place to get locked down and the last place to open.
I got really lucky with lockdowns during COVID. I think I never really got. I think I was locked down. There was like that 1 week where they locked down the whole city.
Right.
Like right before they locked down Shanghai, and that was I think the only time I was really ever locked down. I got really lucky with.
Yeah, same here.
As far
like
as COVID
we only got locked down that 1 week. There was none of the buildings here ever got like isolated. There was a few scares where they like stopped letting people in or out for a few hours just to figure out, or overnight to figure out what was happening. But around us though was like bombs, boom. This place is closed. This place is closed, boom. You know, these massive gardens.
I don't know how I got lucky, but I definitely did.
And then once they decided to end the COVID policies, it was just like everybody got sick.
Yeah,
everybody had COVID. The whole building.
I got stuck in Los Angeles when I got COVID. Actually, I was home for company sent me to CES, the 2023. It's like in January. So I got it when I was in Vegas for CES.
What year?
I went back to the States end of 2022. CES was January 2023, but I hadn't been home in 5 years, so I went home a week or two early so that I could like see my family and stuff. So I like went home, saw my family. I'd never been to the West Coast before, so I flew into LA, and I like hung around LA for a couple of days. I went to see the Hollywood sign and the beach and stuff. Then I went home, saw my family, went back to Vegas for CES, got COVID, missed most of CES. Then went back to LA and got stuck in LA because COVID stuff had sort of just ended. So most countries still had like rules regarding COVID to go in and out. And you needed a negative COVID test to fly through Japan. And the direct flights to Hong Kong were too expensive. So I had to go through Japan. And my personal COVID test was coming back negative, but the one that you need to take that Japan would accept kept coming back positive. It had been well over a week at this point, and I'm paying for these $200 tests, and everyone keeps coming back positive. So I was just like just stuck in a hotel in Los Angeles. And eventually I got a direct flight to Hong Kong, so then I didn't have to go through Japan's rules. But by then it had been like 2 weeks, so the tests were finally coming back negative. But that flight was easier anyway. But so yeah, it wasn't a great beginning of 2023.
Yeah, 2023 was rough. It was my 2023 was like the beginning was rough, middle was good, and the end was rough.
They got
so it was kind of
peaks and valleys, right?
Yeah, dude, it was like the summer was fucking fantastic.
I think we can agree it was better than 2022, though.
2022, I think, was pretty good for me. As far as, I mean, personally.
I didn't love the daily COVID tests.
Yeah, that was pretty rough, you know.
Although when I had to do them at work, it meant I didn't have to work, which was kind of nice. Like, 15 minutes off from work because we got to go stand in line. I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah, I was thinking about like how many like hours of productivity was lost by people waiting in line to do COVID tests. You know, it's like every day you got to do it. If you don't do it, you're not going to be able to take the metro. You can't go to the shopping mall. You can't even get into your apartment complex. Yeah. You know, like,
well, I do my test in the apartment complex. If you don't let me in,
well, it was nice too. Like they used to have testing right here, so we would.
Yeah, there was 2 or 3 tests in my complex, so I never had to go anywhere for the fringe benefit, I guess, of having to go out and do it every day was that it was really close. If there is a fringe benefit.
Yeah,
to that.
There was no benefit.
But my 23, even I guess considering the fact that I got stuck in LA for like 2 or 3 weeks, was probably still better than 2022. With all that, the company reimbursed me eventually for all that hotel money, but so it wasn't like I had to spend all of my own money stuck in LA.
Right.
They of course didn't send me to CES the next year after they spent all that money for me to miss it the year before. But
dude, I remember I went to CES one time, and this is going back to how old I am. It was might have been 1996 or 95, maybe 95 or 96. I was in high school. My dad used to work at a video game company, and this is when CES. There was no E3 at the time.
So any video game
so
stuff.
All the video game, like
CES.
Sony, it was all part of the CES.
Oh, that's cool.
And so I was just like a kid in high school and just going with a bunch of like computer game developers and artists hitting Las Vegas. So,
a bunch of high school kids in Vegas playing video games and.
Well, it wasn't even. I was the only high school kid, but it was a bunch of like young, like mid-20s, early 30s guys
and designers
going to Vegas, going crazy, and I got to like tag along. So that was it was a good memory.
It's probably the best because you got no responsibilities.
Well, it was good. It was good that like they took me under their wing, but they never let me go to because they all went to like strip clubs. Yeah, they're
not going to bring one high school kid to do parties, all the degenerate Vegas stuff.
And so I was like, okay, we're going out now.
Twiddling your thumbs in the hotel room.
Have fun in the hotel. There's fucking ice cream on the 3rd floor.
Playing Pong on the Atari you bought.
So, but it was a good memory. Going to CES was, at that time, I mean, maybe it's still cool, but like, it was so cool.
I mean, it might be cooler if you're there as a visitor, but if you're there to work, you're just sitting at the same booth all day, 4 days in a row, so it's not quite as exciting if you have to work it because you're like surrounded by all this cool stuff. But you want to go see all the cool stuff.
But you have no time to go.
But you have to sit there at your booth explaining your stuff that never seems to be as cool as the other stuff to people that are coming up. And in my case, I'm a social media manager, so I don't really know how any of the stuff works. My job is to post memes on Twitter. So a lot of the people coming up know more about this stuff than me, and I'm just like
how many volts does this thing output? Yeah, if I'm in the rainforest on a hot sunny day or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, is this going to be able to? I was like, call over the engineer guy who's got like a line of people waiting to ask him questions because I can't answer the questions right. People asking about like RAID setups or something, and I'm like, I know what 2 of them are, but there's like 10, and I honestly don't know what the rest are. But it was definitely an experience. It was definitely an experience.
It was also good. You got to go home.
Yeah,
see the family.
It was a paid trip home.
Yeah.
Flights back to the States are expensive. I only had to pay for my LA to Boston flight. All the other flights the company paid for, so it's definitely hard. Definitely can't complain about that. Do some work, but get free flights home.
Yeah. Cheers, dude.
No video games though, because Although E3 is gone now, right? So maybe the video games will come back to CES.
Yeah, it was I mean, it was a big shock to me that E3 closed.
I was kind of surprised.
Because, I mean, from what I understand is that video games, computer games are like the most successful entertainment sector, right? There's like more money spent on video games every year than like movies.
Than anything else.
So I was surprised that
there's
no E3.
I mean, I feel like I just remember E3 being really popular and always wanting to go, and then suddenly it was gone, and I was like, how did...
Yeah, I mean, I went one during... so that was the last year when I went. It was like the last year that it was going to be at CES, and the next year...
Started their own thing.
Started E3, and this E3 was in Los Angeles at the time. I think they eventually moved to Las Vegas, but when they started, it was in Los Angeles, and yeah,
It was always one of those things. I always wanted to go to E3. I always wanted to go to Comic-Con.
Yeah, I've never been to Comic-Con.
Maybe one day. I haven't been either. It's in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
I haven't been. I went to Anime Boston one year back when I was in high school, which was super cool. I can only imagine Comic-Con was like multiple times bigger than Anime Boston was. But I haven't been to Comic-Con yet. I never made it to E3 before its untimely demise, unfortunately. Maybe it'll come back.
Oh, I think I'll have to. I'll have to come back in some form, or maybe just they don't need it.
A lot of the companies do like I know Nintendo does like their Nintendo Directs every month or
maybe
every 2
they'll
months.
just be like what Apple does, right?
They just do their own, because Apple doesn't go to CES, right? They just do their own events whenever they want to do their
all
events.
the media and people to come over. So
I bet the smaller video game companies wish E3 would come back, but I bet the big ones are like, yeah, we'll just do our own thing. Then no one's taking any eyes.
Yeah, it's probably like a big expense that.
Oh yeah,
it doesn't really change their bottom line.
I can't imagine how much those events. Like I went to CES just looking at all the stuff, and I was like, this must have cost
the booths were just crazy.
Like this past year, Sony like drove out a car with a PS5 controller. You got to design. You're obviously not going to sell a car that you run with a PS5, which means all of the money that you spent designing that must be just so that you can do this thing.
Just so you can show it off. You know?
And you had to like get the car here, and it just must be such an enormous, like mind-boggling amounts of money for someone like you or me, at least. Maybe Bill Gates is like, oh yeah, that's a normal Saturday for something. But for
that's my lunch bill.
Yeah, for a normal person like you or me, it just must be mind-boggling amounts of money.
Yeah, I'm sure. But let's go back. You said 2015 is when you showed up here?
Yep, I got here August of 2015.
So what made you decide to leave the United States and come over to China?
I was a failure in the United States, so I left.
Like, what do you mean by like a failure?
I couldn't get a job. I graduated college in 2012.
What was your major? What did you study?
Political science.
Political science.
Just not a useful major.
Yeah, I was gonna. I mean, I don't want to knock your major, but like,
I enjoyed the classes.
I never went to college, So like, I stopped school at 17. I had like the worst grades in my graduating class. Like, what does political science actually mean?
I think if you study political science, you'd then go on to teach political science. You basically study sort of...
Is it like going into government? Like you want to like work in Capitol Hill?
Well, the problem with political science is that any job that you can get with political science, the political science degree, you could get with any other degree. Like a lot of people with political science degrees teach poli-sci, or they're lawyers, or they work in government.
Or become like high school teachers.
Yeah. But I guess if you want to teach political science, you probably have to study it. But if you want to go into government or work in law, you can pretty much study anything, right? So why study political science? But when I was in college, I didn't realize that. I was still operating under the old mindset where it was just like you go to college and you study something, and then you get a white-collar job at a desk somewhere, which...
Used to be the way.
There was a time when that was absolutely true. Right. But I think by the time I was in college, not only was it not true when I was in college, but it hadn't been true for years, but nobody had told us. So I was still operating under this expectation that no longer existed. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll go to school. I didn't go in to study political science. I wasn't one of those people that went to college knowing what they wanted to study. I was one of those people that went in and was like, well, I'll figure it out while I'm there. So I took my gen ed classes, and I enjoyed a political science class I took. So I was like, all right, I'll major in political science. I had the foresight at the time to realize it was not the best idea, so I also minored in Spanish and Chinese, but I didn't have the foresight to realize that studying languages doesn't do you any good unless you have a working fluency in them. So just studying them and being able to speak a little bit of them isn't useful for anything except studying it more.
But like, okay, when you're like 18 and you're like, I'm going to college and I'm going to pick my major. I mean, there's so many like cool majors you could have gone to: filmmaking, photography.
Sometimes I'm like, well, I always enjoyed performing, and I loved doing videos and stuff. But it never occurred to me that was a thing that you could really study or do. I don't even think
you can make money doing it.
Yeah, I don't even think I realized that like film was a thing that you could study until like a decade later. And I didn't realize really that I liked like filming things and making shorts for even a decade after that. Even though I always liked, like, my Chinese classes in college, we always had to, like, at the end of the semester, we always had to like make a video, like with like the vocabulary that we used and stuff. And I always loved those. I loved them every time. I always put a fight scene in them for some reason. There was always a fight scene. And we always like write the scripts. I always edited them. I was always like, yeah, it's all right, I'll edit them. And it was years before I was like, why didn't I do more of that? Like, why did I only ever do it when I had to do it in that Chinese class?
Right.
Like, it was
when
so
you
fun.
Enjoyed it so much.
Yeah. I don't know why. I did consider majoring in computer science, which would have been much more useful, but you needed more math classes. And I barely passed the calculus class that I took for my math gen ed. I got like I would have failed it if it wasn't for the curve, I think. I got like a 60 on the final. I was awful at calculus. I was, the whole semester, I just sat there. I was just like, I don't understand. Every week I went to like when the professor is at his desk and you can like go and ask him questions. I can't remember the name of it. I went like every week to get like extra help with calculus. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And you needed to do at least one more calculus class on top of that for computer science. And I was like, that's not going to happen. There's no way I'd pass that course. And that was sort of the other major that I was considering because I figured that would probably be useful. Something like engineering would have been useful too, but I would have had to take tons of math classes for that. I was just not good enough at math to do anything that required any more math classes than the one I'd already taken that I'd almost failed. I was fairly good at school too. I had like a 3.7 GPA at the end of college, so I did fairly well. But I just couldn't do math. I just don't have a math brain.
Yeah,
I guess.
I'm terrible at math too. Like
I just couldn't do it.
I'm terrible at math. I'm terrible at English. Like I can barely like spell words. Like if you ask me to like write something, I cannot write like a letter without misspelling something or without spell check. You know.
I mean, I probably could before spell check, but after decades of my phone fixing all of my typos, I don't know if I could anymore.
Right. And so what do you actually study in political science?
You know, you study sort of like how government works, how countries interact with each other. Every now and then you'll get something in, like I took like a politics through film class where we watched a bunch of like political movies and discussed the way that they sort of presented politics and stuff. But that was a little different than the normal class. A lot of the time it's like, how does this arm of the government work? I hated American politics classes.
But most of the classes are based on American politics for your political science degree, or
there's different sort of things. You need to have like a international relations class and American, but a lot of the time it's just you need like 4 other politics classes. You can sort of pick and choose what you wanted. The ones I enjoyed were the sort of the international relations classes, like how do countries deal with other countries, how do they interact, how do they play the sort of politics game with each other. I found American politics classes incredibly boring. So that wasn't sort of the wing of politics that I enjoyed. I enjoyed the international relations classes a lot more, which is probably also why I studied the Spanish and the Chinese. I always enjoyed language classes.
Sure.
Couldn't do math. I did languages much better. But again, they weren't useful because I didn't have working fluency in them when I graduated. So I graduated with that political science degree, and the expectation that all you had to do was go to college and you get a job a decade after that was no longer true. And I couldn't get a job. So I worked in retail for a bit, and I was...
Like working at the shopping mall kind of thing?
Yeah, I was miserable. I was
Foot Locker?
I did all the things I was supposed to do. I did well, spent all my parents' money on this, and now I work in retail. So I did that for a little less than a year, and then I went to Spain. I did 2 years in Spain, because I studied Spanish. And then the plan was always go to Spain and then go to China. And I didn't really have any plan after that. That was the end of the plan. I hoped I would make more plan on the way, but at the time there was no more plan.
Just get to China.
Exactly.
Somehow.
So I went to Spain. through a government program, like a cultural ambassador program, where they bring native speakers from other countries. You sort of get put at a school, and you work with the teachers there so that the students can sort of meet someone from that country, hear how you talk. You can talk to them about how you can teach about not just language, but also cultural things like holidays and stuff. So I did that for 2 years. And it was 2 of the best years of my life, but it also wasn't a full-time job. Like, wasn't going anywhere. You're there on a student visa, technically. You're getting a stipend, not a salary. So I was like, I've got to get like a real job. I can't. I don't think I could do this. I don't think they'd let me do this forever, even if I wanted to, right? It's something that you're supposed to go in and do for a year or two, and then move on.
The next person comes in,
people, yeah,
and it gets that same experience.
Exactly.
You know, like one thing that like I feel with college, I think, and I guess what you said is that your parents helped paid for college, and a lot of people don't have that help, you know, and then they come out of there. Like imagine if you were in your situation.
Yeah, graduate with a political science degree, can't get a job,
and
$50,000, $100,000 in debt from loans.
I was just like, I mean, like,
it's incredibly predatory. Like,
I just don't feel like it really gets people ready for real life.
I'm not sure a lot of college does. Like, I'm not sure political science got me ready for real life.
You brought up to me like the class where you guys were watching movies. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah, that's like a good elective activity, or a good go meet with a bunch of friends on Wednesday nights and watch political movies. But like as something that you're paying top dollar for, and this is how like you're spending your time learning. Mm-hmm. For me, I just don't see how it really benefits. Like
I wonder why the colleges are allowed to offer all of these degrees that don't lead anywhere, without like a big warning sign, like, oh yeah, if you study anthropology, it's going to be real hard to get a job. Maybe don't take these poli-sci courses unless you're real sure about going to law school or something, right? Like, I feel like they should be pushing people into things like computer science or engineering, where there's a very serious career path.
Like almost like when you say pushing, like almost like somebody like in top management of the country should be like, in 10 years, we're gonna need a lot of these.
Yeah.
You know,
start training more people to do that now. Yeah.
Or hey, like, you know, scholarships for everybody who wants to study engineering, because our infrastructure is breaking down, and we need to build 1,000 new bridges or whatever, right? But it's just like, oh, let me just like take a class about how to arrange flower, pots.
Underwater basket weaving.
Underwater, whatever bullshit, It's like you take like, maybe, I don't know, 20, 30% is like core classes for your degree, and then it's filled with all this kind of fluff and puff.
I suppose they're trying to make someone well-rounded, but you're not going to be well-rounded taking one math class or one history class. Like, you're not going to learn enough in that one class to be well-rounded, really.
I dated this girl who went to Pomona in Southern California. It was a long time ago, and this was my first introduction to college life. Like, I never stepped foot on a university. I never went to like I said, I stopped school at 17, and then just kind of went off in the world to try to make something of myself.
I mean, you got a whole studio, so you really succeeded.
Well, after 44 years, fucking grinding. But when I went there, I was just thinking, like, I can't imagine if I went here and she's like, oh, let me take you to my wire sculpture class, where they're just like, making stuff with wire. And I'm thinking, like, I could do this in my spare time and buy $100 worth of copper wire and learn the same stuff as she's paying, I don't know, $5,000 for that class. Because, she went to a very expensive school, and her father, was paying for it all. I was just like, fuck me, like, what is she going to do when she, graduates? What is she going to be able to, like, what kind of job?
I mean, I assume at the time, everyone was probably still operating under the same assumptions I was operating on.
I think people are still operating under that.
Yeah, God, I hope they're not still operating.
Yeah, it's not like the universities and colleges are empty.
That's true. You're not wrong. That's part of the reason I haven't gone back to school. Like, I didn't go to get a master's or anything, because I was like, I've seen now that the promise of higher education that I was operating under the assumption of is no longer true. And I'm not going to pay more money to go back to school because the same thing's probably going to happen. Like if I had an employer that was like, yeah, we're going to pay you to go back to school. Okay, maybe I would, right? They're paying for it. They'll probably increase my salary when I finish it, but I'm not going to do it of my own volition because I now see that, all right, having this degree hasn't helped me really in many ways beyond having a degree. Working abroad, a lot of places are like, you need to have a degree.
Yeah, that's beneficial.
So in that case, having a degree has helped, but would it have helped? It would have helped a lot more if that degree was in engineering. Probably have a lot more money now than I do.
Or people like who go to like trade schools.
Yeah,
like,
we should be. You make a lot more money. Like people, like, carpenters and plumbers and stuff make tons of money, don't they?
Why don't like 100,000 a year plus.
Push more people into that. You know? Like that's a problem that I bet is a problem in a lot of the world. It's not looked at as well. It doesn't have the prestige of going to college, so a lot of people don't want to do it. But I feel like if we made it more obvious that going to college maybe isn't going to lead where you want it to lead, but you go to trade school, you do your apprenticeship, and suddenly you're making much more money than you'd make out of college 2 years earlier, I bet a lot more people would do it.
Yeah, I think so, for sure.
But we sort of have to fix that mindset of college first, where it's like you have to go to college. Or
well, I think also too, like when I was coming to the age of being able to go to college, or in my young years, like trade school is always kind of looked down upon. Yeah. It was like, you don't have like the good enough grades to go to, university, or you can't afford it.
Yeah, it's like a fallback.
But there's always trade school. Yeah. It's like your second option.
College is held up on this like, it's put on this like pedestal where it's like this is prestige thing. You have to do it, or you're a failure. You didn't make it, and we have to sort of change that. You realize that there are some things that if you want to do it, you probably have to go to university. You want to be an engineer or something, you probably got to go to college. But a lot of people who work in like computer trades probably didn't go to college. They went to college for something else, realized it was useless, and then took like a weekend class for 6 months to get whatever certification they needed for the job. If we sort of level that playing field between universities and trade schools, and maybe move or
put more trade school into
college.
Into university.
I went to college for plumbing or carpentry or whatever. Then you still get that prestige of university, but you have a job that a much more stable job coming out of school. I enjoyed the classes I took. That's why I took them, but they definitely didn't lead me anywhere. I don't use it. I thought about going to law school. I took the LSATs, but again, at least in the U.S., I think lawyers are sort of oversaturated, and I didn't want to go back to school and then not be three years in debt now, because the deal was if I went to any more education, I had to pay for it. And having seen that I couldn't get a job after university, I was like, I don't really want to go into debt to go back to school to probably be in the same place that I'm going to be in now. But would I have gone to trade school? I don't know. Maybe, probably. I mean, I clearly was bad enough at math. I wasn't going to do most of the good university stuff.
If you were to restart your life at 18,
I might still go to.
Would you still go to college?
I might still go to college. I met my best friends in college.
See, I think for me that's the.
But I would study something different. Absolutely, I would study something that I knew was going to lead to a job.
The best benefits that you get from college
are social. Absolutely, social. Yeah.
And
I'm not gonna say I didn't learn anything in my classes. I learned about how to write and debating and how to sort of converse with people and how to socialize in a way that is usable in the real world. I don't mean like socialize at a party while I'm like taking shots. I mean like how you talk to people in positions of power and stuff, like the things, the shoulder rubbing that you have to do if you want to sort of get promoted in the real world. You do that when you're meeting with professors or upperclassmen or whatever. And a lot of that I think is very beneficial. I think a lot of that is very important. And I think you might lose out on some of that if you don't go to university. But if you go to college and that's all you pick up, like no one's going to hire the person who knows how to schmooze but doesn't have any usable skills, right? They're going to pick the person who has both. So if you study something like I did that's not particularly useful, while I did learn important skills in college, I think I didn't learn the skills that I need. I learned the skills I needed to maybe keep a job after I got it, but not the skills I needed to get that job in the first place.
Not to get the job in the first place.
but yeah, there's definitely benefits to college. I think it was a great time. But if I did it again, I would maybe try to figure math out more, or find the major like computer science that maybe only needed a couple math classes and hope that I could squeak through them. Like maybe I would have been able to get through one more calculus class. I couldn't have majored in mathematics, obviously, but maybe I could have gotten through one more math class with just barely a passing grade.
So what was it that made you want to go to China? Just because you decided?
I learned, you got usually in high school in the States, at least when I was going.
You had to pick a language.
You often did a language for a couple years, and it was usually Spanish or French.
Yeah.
I did Spanish, so I
picked
already
French.
did a couple years of. I kind of like French now, but in high school I was like, oh, French. Why would you use French? It sounds so weird.
Spanish is more useful in the U.S. for sure.
That was part of the reason. It also sounded doable. The sounds in French. Even now, I'm doing French on Duolingo, and I'm like, I can't make any of these sounds. Spanish sounds were much easier to make.
Yeah.
So I already spoke a little bit of Spanish, so I was like, well, I'll keep doing Spanish. It's a useful language. And then I should probably add one. What other language is useful? China's a big manufacturing powerhouse. A lot of people speak Chinese. I'll do Chinese as a second language. You don't have to do as many classes for a minor as you do for a major.
So Spanish was a major, and then Chinese
major was poli-sci.
Okay.
And I did 2 minors, Spanish and Chinese. You need to do way less classes. You can add a couple of minors if there's something that you enjoy. So I added the Spanish and the Chinese because Chinese seemed like I didn't want to study something that had no benefit, because I was doing the languages in addition to poli-sci, because I had that little bit of foresight where I was like, maybe I need like that little extra something. Turned out I needed a lot of extra something, so it wasn't quite enough, but I realized I need a little bit more. So Spanish is a usable language. It's useful, at least I thought at the time. I still think it is. And I wanted a second language that I figured would also be useful. And I figured the 2 most useful would probably be Arabic or Chinese, and I chose Chinese.
Yeah, I think Chinese is much more powerful language than Arabic in the world scheme.
The grand scheme of things.
Scheme of things, yeah.
Unfortunately, both of them are much harder to learn than Spanish. So
yeah,
whereas my Spanish got better at a faster rate, my Chinese got better at a much slower rate.
So are you speaking Chinese now?
My Chinese has not gotten much better because my job's always been to speak English.
Right.
So it's much harder to sort of always be doing Chinese when your job's speaking English. When you're working 40 hours a week, it's hard to find time to study. Before, all I was doing was studying. So I took the Chinese classes when I was in college. I had a Chinese class every day. I had like 5 or 6 hours of Chinese a week, so I was doing a lot of studying. Plus, I had homework and stuff. Then I went to Spain. I was speaking a lot of Spanish, but no Chinese, obviously. And then I got to China, and I was working 40 whatever hours a week, speaking English. That was my job, so everyone spoke English to me because they all spoke English. It was their job too. And then I didn't have time to study. I was speaking English for work, so I was probably best in college, honestly. I'm better now than I was when I got to China, obviously, but not as good as I wish I was.
So you went to Spain first, and then...
The plan was go to Spain, because I'd learned Spanish.
And then directly from Spain, go to China.
Yep. I did 2 years in Spain, and then...
And the Spain was through the university?
Spain was through the Spanish government.
The
Spanish government has a program called the Auxiliares de Conversación, Cultural Ambassador Program. I'm pretty sure, I looked it up earlier, because I wanted to make sure it still existed. I'm pretty sure it still exists. It's through the Ministry of Education, I think. You're there on a student visa, you get a stipend, they put you in a school somewhere. When I was doing it...
So it's all paid for?
Then you have to get your own plane ticket. You got to rent an apartment.
Okay,
they give you money every month.
So they give you a small money for food and snacks?
Yeah, food.
And they give you classes?
Food, rent, and then they put you in a school, like an elementary or primary school.
Oh, as a teacher?
Yeah.
You're working.
You're kind of like a TA.
It's kind of like a working
thing.
Okay.
But it's probably easier
like an
to get
internship.
people.
Like, I don't want to say internship.
It's kind of like an internship. Yeah, you're sort of like a.
So like I thought like, oh, if they put you in a school, I'm like, oh, like you're back in university.
Back studying again. No, you're on a student visa, but you're sort of like a TA.
Right.
You're like a
work experience,
language assistant.
Sure.
Yeah. So I did that for 2 years in Spain in a small city called Zamora, close to Salamanca, near the corner of Portugal.
Sure.
I did that for 2 years. And I was like, all right, time to go to China. So from there, I went to China.
And when you didn't know anybody in China at the time?
Nope. There was actually a girl from Zamora who might have been living in Shanghai at the time. She had been like a reporter in Zamora, and I'd met her that way.
And you didn't have a job in China?
I did. I got a job before I went. I have very low tolerance for risk, so I wasn't just going to YOLO it and show up.
Just stroll in?
I got a job at a large chain training center.
Like Wall Street or something like that?
Name of which I won't mention because I'm probably going to say not great things about them later.
Do they still exist today?
They do still exist today, which probably narrows it down a lot because there aren't quite so many.
Narrows it down a lot, right?
It's also on LinkedIn, so it's probably not that hard to figure out where I worked. But I mean, I became a better teacher there. I'm not gonna pretend I did.
You're like looking up online.
Yep.
Like I'm American. I got my degree. Of course, they love you. They don't care about what your degree is.
They offer. You need to have a TEFL to teach English in China, but they like offer like a basic one that you can take.
And TEFL is like a test
it's like
or something?
an English language teaching certificate.
Now, TEFL, is this an international thing or a Chinese thing?
I think it's international. It means like teaching English as a foreign language. There's fancier ones that you can get through like different schools. I can't remember the name, but TEFL is just sort of the basic general nomenclature for these foreign English teaching certificates. There's definitely better ones that you can, like 120-hour ones that will get you better, higher paying jobs, but you need to have like bare minimum like a basic 40-hour one to teach English in China. So they offered one like through them that you could get if you didn't have one already. And then you needed 2 years of teaching experience, which I used my Spain experience for. So I got that job, and then they did pay for most of the stuff. Like they pay for your flight out because this one's an actual job, right? And back in 2015, English teaching was a huge business. So they always needed lots of people coming in. So they paid for your plane ticket to fly you out. They put you up in a hotel for 2 weeks. They did a lot of training early on before you started at your school.
They wine and dined everybody, you know.
Now you're all in the hotel together, so you meet like all the teachers that come in at the same time as you. You like make this initial group of friends because you're all doing your training together. You're all at the hotel together. Then eventually you spread out because Zamora is a very small city in Spain where I was. So like you're always close to all your friends, but Shenzhen is huge. So as we went out to our schools, we obviously started losing touch because they're all so far away.
Yeah, it takes an hour to get from here to Bao'an.
Yeah.
You know, an hour and 2 hours.
My school's here and yours is way out there. Like,
I'll see you on Friday sometimes.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
So I definitely learned a lot about teaching when I worked there. I was there for 2 years, and then they refused to transfer my visa. So I had to go home for 3 months to get a new job because they wouldn't transfer my visa, which I think was a load of bullshit.
Means to another company.
I went to a regular 9-to-5 school after.
Oh, like a proper school.
Yeah, because if you probably do more teaching honestly at a training center, but the work is just soul crushing because you're working nights and weekends basically.
It's the fun time.
Yeah, all the time you want to be doing something.
Right.
Like I wanted to do martial arts. A big part. I like martial arts a lot. Right. So I was coming to China. I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do kung fu.
Kung
Fu
Wing
was
Chun,
on nights and weekends,
you know?
and I had to work. I was like, so it was really hard to do any martial arts during that first 2 years because classes were almost always when I was already at work. And then anything interesting that happened is going to happen on Friday night or on Saturday during the day or something, which are your busiest times.
Which you're working.
And then like a big benefit of teaching is that you have holidays off, like you get the summer holiday, a much bigger Chinese New Year holiday.
But not the training centers.
Not a training center, you work extra. So we worked 6 days a week during the, with the worst classes, the training center holiday
Was it
classes
kids and adults
the
or just kids?
I was at a kids training center.
Okay.
So I taught.
And did you enjoy it?
I
mean, like, because you just graduated from college.
Not really.
And you went to Spain, not because you wanted to be a teacher, just because I think you just wanted to go to Spain.
Yep.
And teaching is what they offered you. And did you enjoy it in Spain? Like,
I enjoyed Spain. The teaching in Spain wasn't bad, but there was always like a teacher in the classroom that the students respected. And I was sort of like a fun thing to have. Oh, it's the day of the week because I had like each class once a week. It's like, oh, today's our Seth day, right? Like, so it was an interesting, novel thing. And
they respect you?
They gave us a lot of free time. So like I only had maybe 20 hours a week of work when I was in Spain. They make sure to give you plenty of time, like explore Europe and stuff. And we had 3-day weekends. So the classes, there was few enough of them that it never really got to the point where I was like, oh God, I hate this. And again, since you're with a teacher that they respect, they're not going to like start acting out because their teacher's there. But I didn't. Teaching definitely wasn't what I wanted to do, and I even knew it then. But teaching is what you can get a job as in Spain or in China as a white American dude. So I went to when I got this job at the training center. It's a big, again, chain training center that is also involved in other things like tourism and stuff. So what I had hoped at the time was that I could sort of get my foot in the door at the training center and then move into something that wasn't teaching, like curriculum development or their tourism arm. But it became apparent that the other arms were not that connected to the so like working at the ESL school wasn't really going to give me a leg up moving to like their tourism arm. Maybe curriculum development, maybe, but the amount of like basically free unpaid overtime you had to do to get anywhere, I was like, nah, I'm not about this. Like
I'm good.
I'm willing to do the work, but you got to pay me for it. I'm not going to do a whole bunch of free work for you just so that I can like move up the ladder. I want to move up the ladder because you appreciate the work that I'm doing. I'm doing good work, not because I'm bending over backwards to do stuff for you for free. So I did that for 2 years.
So you worked at the first school for 2 years.
The training center for 2 years.
And then they wouldn't transfer your visa to another company.
So
you went back home.
The way visas work, as I understand it, is that as long as you're going from one job to another job that's the same job, like English teacher to English teacher,
right,
you can transfer the visa from one company or school or whatever to another one.
Yeah, there's a process.
You don't have to get a new one.
Right.
But they said that they would be legally responsible for me if I like committed a crime, even though I wasn't working for them anymore because they had initially sponsored my visa. And I thought that's ridiculous. No one's gonna, if I commit a crime, I'm not gonna go to prison and they're not gonna like look at it and be like, oh, this company sponsored his visa initially. They're just gonna look at who has it now.
Right.
So I was like, so what law is this? And they couldn't tell me one. And that's how I knew it was bullshit. Basically, they just wanted to punish me for no
leaving.
longer working with them because it meant that they had to go through the hassle of finding a new teacher.
Yeah. I was wine and dine a new person.
Yeah, I was willing to maybe believe that there was a law until I asked, and they were like, and wouldn't tell me anything. And it's like everyone else always trying. That's like such a basic thing.
And I think like you can even. Honestly, I don't think you had to go back to the U.S. I think if you went to, as long as the new school is willing and you went to the visa immigration office, there's a way for the
new school to do it themselves.
For the new school to apply for the working visa, you can still like have a grace period on this old visa.
I don't know how HR works, so it's entirely possible. But as I understood it, at least at the time, you needed to have the papers. And the old company is legally required to give you the papers, but they're not legally required to give them to you early enough to start that visa transfer process. Yeah. So they're like, yeah, we'll give them to you on the last day of work. And the last day of work basically means all you have is like a month-long tourist visa now. Because like if my work visa ends on my last day of work, I need to have something, unless I'm going to leave that day, right, I need to have something for at least another week so I can like pack up and move. So they transfer your work visa into like a short stay 1 month tourist visa, and I don't think that you can change that into a new work visa.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I wasn't willing to. Again, I have a very low tolerance for risk, and I didn't want to break any. China's not a place you want to go if you're looking to break laws. So I didn't want to be like, oh, I'm going to risk it, and then be like 2 weeks into no visa, no man's land, and hope that the process is still going right. So
yeah, you got to go back home and see the family or whatever.
Yeah, so I went home. I'd been home for like a wedding for like 1 week the year before. But like when I was in Spain, I went home during the summers because I had no job, wasn't getting paid when there was no school. So I would go home for the summers and then I came back the next year. But I had a job all year round when I got to China. So I'd gone home for like a week for a wedding, but I hadn't gone home for any serious amount of time. So I was like, all right, I'll go home. It was also when I finished I wanted to go to a school because I didn't want to have all the nights and weekends anymore. And they mostly hire at the beginning of one of the 2 semesters. And my job was from like the middle of August. So if they'd transferred my visa, I would have been able to get in the spring semester and it would have been fine. But since they wouldn't, I would have had to find a job like in the middle of August, which is not a good time to find a teaching job. So even if I'd risked it, I might not have been able, they might have already hired for the new semester. So I went home for 3 months. I got lucky and I found a job that was starting at the beginning of the winter semester. So instead of having to stay for almost a whole year, I was only home for a couple of months. And then I came back and I had a job at a regular 9 to 5, Monday to Friday school after that.
Like a real school.
Yeah. Which was, I was maybe at work longer total during the week than I was at the training center, but it was like a normal 9 to 5, 9 to 6.
Yeah, your normal life. Yeah. Like a normal life that people are used to.
Yeah, you have the same nights and weekends that like everybody else has off. You have the long holidays, and I found a school that paid during those holidays. Obviously, those holidays are not great if you're not getting paid, like in the States. But here, I was getting 12 months of pay, even though I had almost 3 months of vacation every year. So I had plenty of time to like travel and stuff during those holidays. It was a much better sort of situation.
More relaxed.
Yeah, than when I was at the
Yeah, because what I know, I've never taught English, but what I know is about these training centers is that I feel like they like suck your soul. You know, just like
they sort of try to make sure you're only friends with other people at the training center, so that it's harder to leave. Like if all your friends are at the training center, you're not gonna be able to leave because now.
I used to like, you know, like when I went Mamba, right, and a lot of teachers would come, and it's like all they talked about, like sitting at the bar, having some drinks, talking about teaching life. I'm like, fuck, man, like.
That's all you have to do, especially if you're at a training center. It's not like you can go to that concert or that party because you were working, so all you can talk about is
the life at the training center. I thought it was so terrible, man. Like, I would never want this life for myself.
It wasn't enjoyable. I did learn a lot about teaching, but what I learned when I went to the school was that what I learned about teaching at the training center was only usable in like a similarly leveled class, which is not what you get at a school. So like at the training center, they put people in basically not by age, but by level. There's like a loose age group, like 8 to 12 or something. But everyone in the class is approximately at the same English level. But in a school, it's just by age. So you have kids in that class that are like reading Harry Potter in English, and you have kids in the class that can't even say hello. And the stuff that I learned at the training center was really only useful in a class where everyone was at about the same level of English.
Right.
So all that stuff that I learned about teaching, which admittedly was very good at the training center, was not really usable at the school. For my first like 6 months, I kept trying all the stuff that I'd learned at the training center. And every single time, without fail, it just wouldn't work. Because there was always 2 or 3 kids that it was just like way too easy for. And then like at least half a dozen that just couldn't even begin to do it.
Right.
And then a whole bunch
kids,
in the middle that maybe can sort of do it.
Right.
But if I lowered it down a bit to try to work for those really basic kids, then it was way too easy for those smartest kids, and then maybe too easy for those kids in the main group in the middle.
Right.
And if I tried to make it better for those kids at the top, then the kids at the bottom would just kind of stare at them. So I found out that I had to basically do completely different stuff.
Right.
And the other downside, of course, was that at the training center, I'd had that like maybe professional goals that I could sort of work towards, like get out of teaching and go into another. But at a school, at least in China, as a foreign teacher, there's nowhere else to go. You can be a foreign teacher or the head foreign teacher. That's pretty much it. You're not really gonna get any higher unless you have
the principal.
Like, if you've got like a legitimate like teaching certificate from the U.S., maybe you can get into like a real fancy
like university or something.
Well, I don't know if you need. I don't know what kind of teaching certifications you need for university, but I think they pay really bad.
Yo, man, let me hit you back up, dude. Try not to make it too heavy.
Trying to make it as he pours the entire bottle of gin in.
Well, you're slow. You're one of my slow drinkers.
Because I've heard about everyone else. SJ actually warned me. He was like, "Don't drink too much gin." Knocked me on my ass.
Dude, I asked. You know, like the funny thing about the SJ story is that I asked him. I was like, "Do you want me to pour heavy? Do you want me to pour light?" You know?
He said heavy, and he probably thought it was going to be here. Your heavy was like here.
And then he was like, heavy. And so like usually like what just I don't know if this is correct, you know, but normally I pour the gin up to cover the ice.
The ice.
And then I pour the tonic on top of that. That's probably a heavy drink because it's probably like maybe a shot and a half or 2 shots. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe SJ's heavy and your heavy weren't the same thing.
You know?
Because he definitely warned me. I was like, "Do you have any advice?"
You know, but I thought like, you know,
careful.
he's also like very active in the nightlife, you know. So I was like, you know, and I don't drink. I mean, before I used to drink a lot, but these days like I don't drink so often. When you own a bar,
Yeah, because there's some level of drinking required if you
you know,
own a bar.
it was definitely like much more drinking involved then. But like since COVID and since that's closed, I've kind of
Slow down.
this is like my drinking night is having a podcast. So cheers to that.
Now we know why you have the podcast. You need an excuse to drink.
It's an excuse to drink. Yeah, then I get to find out which friends are
Interesting. And which
can
ones
handle
are
it.
incredibly
And
boring.
which ones are gonna meet the bench later.
Which ones get halfway through the podcast and knock everything over when they fall out of their chair.
So, yeah. So like you know like the thing about living in Shenzhen and throwing all these parties and having the bar and me personally having like a terrible memory. I have a lot of people on my WeChat.
You don't know who they are.
And I don't know who they are, right? Like obviously like people I hang out with or spend personal time with or I know these people, but there's like 5,000 plus people on my WeChat.
That you met at 2 a.m, decided to do something with. Completely
Or they
forgot what
added
the
me
thing was.
to get information about a party a long time ago, or who knows. And we actually I think
We
we've
probably
never-
met that way. That's probably how we met.
We've known each other for a while, but not like we never hung out. We never went and said let's go have a beer together.
I feel like we're in different sectors of Shenzhen. You're in like the fun sector, and I'm in like the boring people that don't ever
I
do
don't know if
anything
I'm in the
sector.
fun sector. Maybe I was before, but now I'm definitely more in the.
Well, for a couple of years there, nobody was in the fun sector. There was no fun sector.
But like I used to check my moments, and I always saw like your post, and I always thought that like I could never know if you were like serious about it or if it was like a character you were portraying, or maybe a little bit of both, you know, because it's very humorous, but also very like depressing at the same time.
Posted some dark stuff on WeChat.
Yeah, and for me it was like entertaining. I mean,
A lot of people seem to have found it entertaining, which it kind of amuses me. Like, all right, well,
you know, but
I
like
guess so. If people find it entertaining, I'm not going to tell them not to find it entertaining, right? That's not what I posted it for, but if that's what you get out of it, go for it. Like,
if you were truly having a hard time in life and people were finding entertaining, that's very sad, you know, because it's like almost like a cry out for help, you know, like I was trying to like pull up some of your old posts on
I wisely made them wisely made them private.
you know, but it's like I want to like print some out and like read some of my favorite ones on the
You have a
podcast.
big board in the back, and you just like move the thing. It's just like the WeChat post.
Right. I wanted to do something like that. And that's actually like, I was like, man, this guy must be super interesting. Like, he
Joke's on you.
jokes on me. He's always posting this funny shit, but it's also very depressing. And also, I think a lot of people relate to it, and probably how a lot of people feel about their work, about their life, about the, you know, nobody wants to be at some shitty job on Monday morning, you know, and have to fucking grind the whole day at something that they're unhappy doing. Majority of people probably feel that way, you know.
I'll preface this with my job is objectively very good. Anybody from my job who may one day watch this, objectively, my job is quite good.
But see, I always like, it was for me like it was. I always took it as like a humor, like you're being like satirical satire about your life, and I was like, fuck, man, like I think this guy, you know, it's interesting. Like I want to invite him over here and have this podcast, and then we actually had a little conversation over at the
Brown Sugar Jar.
Brown Sugar Jar. And that's from the first idea of you coming on the podcast. And then I went to the Middle Kingdom wrestling. And are you a wrestling fan?
I wasn't when I was growing up, and I feel like I really missed the boat there because it's such a blast.
Did you have fun?
I had a blast, absolute blast. It's so
I had
fun.
so much fun, but you made it so much more fun.
I feel like a big part of wrestling is the audience interaction, and at least in China, a lot of people don't know that.
Well,
like they think they're there to like watch these people fight. So I feel like it's my job to let them realize that there's more to this. You've got to heckle these guys a little bit, like
Right, and that they want that.
Yeah,
you know?
the performers want that absolutely, but since so many people in the audience don't realize that, you need to have the guy.
Especially in China, they're polite.
In the States, it's probably like I'd probably be the quietest guy
Right.
in the room in the States,
You know?
but I stand out a bit in China because a lot of people don't realize they're supposed to yell at these people as the fights are happening, and this is the second time where people thought that I was like part of the show.
So you've been to before?
Yep, this is my third or fourth Shenzhen event, and at least at two of them I've been very loud. One was like a Tuesday night or something, and I was really tired. So I just kind of I know Uncle Money.
Mm-hmm. He lives in Shenzhen, right?
He used to. He might be in Guangzhou or something now.
Okay.
But him and I used to work at the same company. I think that's how I met him. I'm
teaching and
honestly
shit?
don't remember how I met him, but I think that's how.
Yeah, because I thought he's one of the guys actually I want to invite for the podcast.
Oh, yeah, you've got to have Uncle Money
talk
on
about
the
wrestling.
show.
I think
100%, you got to have Uncle Money on the show.
You know?
And I hung out with him more. He was one of Malone's stunt guys.
Okay.
So I was going out to Malone's stunt place for a little while at the end of 2019, before COVID hit, as always seems to be the case. And Uncle Money was one of the stunt guys there too with Malone. So we hung out more then. We got a short film that we did there that he's in. I'll send you a link.
Okay.
You can check it out. It was pretty fun to do. There was like construction going on across the street though, so there's no audio or dialogue. I just had to like dub music over the whole thing because otherwise it was like the whole time. So that was sort of a extra thing that we had to work around when we filmed it. But yeah, absolutely. People thought that I was part of the show because I was just like heckling these guys so much, and it's so fun. I love it. But I never really watched it growing up. I don't know
never
why.
watched it too.
I feel like I would have loved it. Like every time, maybe it's not as good on TV. I don't know. Maybe it's a thing you got to do live.
I think it's definitely better live.
Oh yeah, it's definitely better live. But maybe I don't know if it's like still good on TV or if it's just like this is kind of boring. But I've been to. I think this was my fourth time seeing it. Always in Shenzhen. Too lazy to go anywhere to do things. So
And they usually just come once a year or twice a year.
They had them a little more often, and then COVID, and they seem to be getting back into it. I think I saw 2 pre-COVID, and then I think they might have had 1 in the middle sometime. And then they do a lot. They do a lot in like Harbin. Shenzhen's. I don't think Shenzhen is one of the like main Middle Kingdom wrestling cities.
Right.
They do like a lot of shows in Harbin. I think they do shows in a lot of other cities. Shenzhen, I think, is one of their more minor cities. All things considered, although don't quote me on that. I'm not involved in the business or anything. So I don't really know what goes on behind the scenes.
Yeah, I mean, like I was like looking at I don't think that they do it for money. At least not in Shenzhen.
Yeah, not in Shenzhen.
Because like when you look at the number of seats and the venue and the number of people involved and the setup and stuff like that,
How much it must cost to like set it up, rent the place, get the ring in there.
Yeah, it's like a big expense, and there's not enough money in the tickets to, So
yeah, I definitely don't think Shenzhen's one of their big markets. I think Harbin is one of their real big
following.
Yeah, big markets for wrestling. Hong Kong, I think might be pretty big too. But I think there might be another like wrestling federation group. They sort of work together.
Do you watch Netflix?
I do.
Did you watch Wrestlers on Netflix?
No.
Okay, so I was never into pro wrestling. I'm still not into pro wrestling, but like I always looked at it as like, oh, it's fake. It's just soap operas, for men. I mean, right, with these storylines, and they do some like cool acrobatics and shit like that, or some, it's definitely like it takes skill to do what they're doing. I'm not knocking that, but
I think a better word would be scripted.
So
they're definitely kicking the shit out of each other.
They're definitely kicking the shit out of themselves.
Oh yeah.
Like those guys, like that night left bloody. One guy went to the hospital.
Really? Oh man.
Yeah. Wasn't that big, like 8 versus 8 match?
Oh, towards the end, yeah, the big.
And then I think he looks Latino, maybe he's like Filipino or something like that. But he needed help being carried off out of the arena.
Out of the ring.
And then later when I was grabbing something, I saw the EMS taking him off in a wheelchair.
They put themselves through hell for that. Like they're beating the crap out of each other.
So if you have Netflix, you should watch Wrestlers.
All right, you have to remind me later so I can write it down.
Right. So
but I'll definitely watch it.
It's I think it's OVW. So it's this very tiny wrestling organization out of Ohio Valley or whatever. And it's a documentary about
the wrestlers there.
About the wrestlers and everything that goes involved, from the performers, from the manager to the investor to the crowd, the fans and stuff like that. It's a very small circuit,
I wonder if like small local wrestling like that is actually better than like the WWE or whatever. Because there it's just like all these like big famous people in the middle, you're way out somewhere. But at these like small ones, you're right up close. Like the wrestlers were like telling people the moves so they could throw the other guy into the chairs. Like,
yeah, I definitely think like it's definitely more personal.
Yeah, that's how you put it.
Like when you see these people and they're from a small town and you're going out to the cafe or the diner and they're having
there they are.
There they are,
bandaged up and stuff.
Part of the
coffee.
community, for sure. But I appreciated like going to the wrestling night so much more because I watched the wrestlers
that documentary.
It definitely made me appreciate a lot more just about wrestling as a sport, as the art, of it, and what's involved, especially like probably on WWE or F whatever it is, like it's probably a whole different ball game, But on the smaller circuit, like Middle Kingdom wrestling, that's what can compare
they're
it
comparable.
To, it was like really cool. And then I was thinking like, man, fuck, like somebody should
film a documentary about
make me a documentary about bringing American style wrestling.
We should start planning that
into China.
Let's get this going.
Like I think it would be amazing as a Netflix show
series or something,
or YouTube, channel.
Well, it starts on YouTube and gets picked up by Netflix, like Cobra Kai.
So, but having you in the audience, that just like the I mean, you were the loudest person in the room.
I had a couple of.
I think your voice must have been so fucking trashed the next day.
We got through like the first 2 fights, and my friend Alan, who was there, was like, "Are you gonna do that the whole time?"
Yeah, right.
I was like, "I'm gonna try, but I gotta go sit down now." Yeah, my voice was shot the next day.
Yeah, it was. You definitely like you started higher, and then towards like the
I had to space it out a little bit.
Towards the end, it was like you're definitely a little bit. You're still like active, but not as like.
I couldn't shout the entire match. Loud. I had to like wait for some opportune points by the end.
Yeah, it was this. It made my experience at the wrestling event much more enjoyable.
I got in a little spat with like a guy in front of me because he was always rooting for the other fighter.
Yeah,
like getting in arguments with the other. I hope that he was like in on the
joke.
I hope he didn't realize that like I was playing a bit sort of thing. Like
you're playing you're a character in the show. You brought your own character.
They didn't want me playing that character, but I was going to play it. And I hope that guy realized. I wasn't actually telling him I hated him, but him and I sort of argued about the people fighting sometimes. He was like in like the row in front of me or something.
Like I could see like myself like being, because I was talking to the Russian girl, like she was like one of the background characters.
Queen Marie.
Is that what her name is?
If she's part of the stable, yeah. She's like the girl that was with Uncle Money's group.
Yeah.
She goes out with Big Sam.
So, that's his girl?
I think so.
I don't know. It doesn't matter. backstage, I was talking to her, and she's like, "So are you a wrestler?" She's like, "No, I'm just like you're a background character." I said, "Yeah, exactly. I'm a background character," and like, fuck, I could see myself being like a background character.
You're like the guy's manager or something. You go out, you yell at him, you hold the guy down a couple times, you get hit by one chair. And,
no injury.
Yeah, you hit once, maybe lightly, nothing serious. You're not doing a flip off the ropes or anything.
I can see you being a background character.
Oh, no, that would be great.
Get like an Irish accent, and you can like be like the manager for like those two Irish guys.
Yeah, the two Irish guys.
You could pass as like a little leprechaun. Kind of.
Back when we had the stunt school, I kind of wanted to like get Uncle Money, because he was one of the guys, to like rope us into one of the shows where like one of us would like run out, we'd like all like go together and like throw one of us into the rest of us or something, as sort of like an in between bit in like the middle of the fight. But that was I think they had a show like right when I started with the stunt guys, so I was still like the new guy. And then the next one was like mid-COVID, when people was all sort of spread out a little bit. So we never really got to, but I think that would be fun. Being a background character, because I don't think I could like do the training and stuff necessary, and the bulking up necessary to be at one of the actual wrestlers. But being one of the background characters, I could definitely see being real fun.
Yeah, I could definitely see you doing that. And like the one of the coolest things about the Netflix show about wrestlers was is the guy the head guy of the organization. He was kind of like the lead storyteller, and it was cool to watch him think about the story of the different characters.
Yeah, he's got to come up with the storylines, who's beefing with who, why they're fighting, what's happening.
Yeah, because they were on pay-per-view like once every few months or something like that, but they were on like local television every week. So like he would make these like stories that would like need to arch up.
Yeah, because if you only watch the pay-per-views, you've got to still be able to follow the story, even if you're not watching like the local television shows every week.
Yeah, but also you want all the diehard fans to be so interested in that story.
That they watch
they want to go watch the conclusion, and like the pay-per-view buys were like 500 people worldwide, like fucking nothing. I'm sure that Netflix boosted their popularity, and good for them, But I think that I don't know who does that for the Middle Kingdom organization, but I think that would be like a cool job, to like sit around the table, like, okay, Uncle Money, this is.
You had that fight with this guy 2 years ago, and it ended this way, and you're real mad that this thing happened the year later, and you're gonna go back and. Oh, absolutely, that would be. You've got to be a good storyteller, though. You've got to have sort of you've got to have that spark for like someone who could like write books or screenplays or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
To do something like because they can tell stories.
And it needs to be done in like chapters.
Yeah.
Like
things need to end and new things need to start.
And like that big show in Harbin or Shanghai, that's the
headliner where you everything comes together.
I'm not sure like the Middle Kingdom is at that level yet. As far as like big story. Because
you also don't want the stories to be too confusing if you haven't been following them.
Yeah.
Because there was a bit in that last one with the girl who was like the mental patient. In the fight with the two girls, one of them was like she had like the scissors and stuff.
Yeah, she was cool.
And I'd seen her in previous shows. She was not a mental patient then, and I was like, what happened that sort of. Like she's got something going with Zombie Dragon now, and there's like clearly a big story beat that I missed, and I don't know how it.
And I like at the end, the guy comes out from the back and then injects her with something.
That was Zombie Dragon. He's a regular character. He was He was one of the champions for a while, I think. But so she's clearly got something going with him, the guy who came out at the back. But I don't know how she got from like a more regular wrestler to that sort of. Like mental patient getting syringed by Zombie Dragon. I needed like a little catch-up booklet to read at the beginning.
Yeah, and then they should have that. Like,
cool.
Like,
I mean, it was great. I'm not complaining about it or anything.
No, the event was cool. It was great.
It was an excellent event. It was very well done.
But sometimes, like when I see something like that, especially after like watching like the Netflix, like how cool would it be to like have enough money or the situation where you could just say, you know what, for a year, I'm just gonna go
follow them and film it all.
film it and document it and make something out of it. You know.
I wonder if we could scrounge up the people to do it.
To what? To make it?
To make a documentary. Maybe something short to begin with, like just one of the shows, like following the lead up to instead of like a big year-long thing. Like,
well, one of the shows
lead up to one of the shows. How are they planning the events for that show? How do they bring in? Because like Franco, that like the big guy towards the end, he's from the States, I think. They brought him in for that show. He's not like a regular Middle Kingdom wrestling guy. How are they getting people from other places to come into this? What's it look like in the back? There's probably a lot going on, even for one single show, that would make a good like short like 10-minute long short documentary that wouldn't require the time or the money that like that Netflix show probably required. And I wonder if we could scrounge together people.
Yeah, I mean the Netflix show is like 6 months of filming and
it's probably an entire team. It's probably not like you and me and two other guys like showing up on a Saturday night to film from the corner.
But but you and me and another guy, or even you and me, could actually produce, you know, something that's also good quality. You know,
you'd probably you start with that like one shorter single event documentary, like 10, 15-minute YouTube documentary, and then if it gets received well, maybe you can then make something bigger farther down the line.
Yeah, I mean that's. For me too, like one of the biggest mistakes that I feel like I made in my life, like when I was in high school, and my father used to always have a camera, both a photo camera and a video camera. And for a short time, he was working in the film industry in Los Angeles, and then we moved from LA to like this fucking town of 2,500 people in the foothills of the Sierra Nevada mountains. And
one of those places that people say is LA, but isn't really LA.
No, we lived like in proper LA.
Well, initially when you moved.
And then we moved out of LA to go to this.
Was it like a suburb of LA? The people that live there, they say it's LA.
No, we live in Culver City. I lived on Venice Boulevard. Venice Boulevard was like Venice Beach was like 10 minutes from my house.
Mm-hmm. When you were in LA.
When I lived in LA.
Yeah, but then
I moved into the far away from LA to the Sierra Nevada mountains.
So far enough away that people, because like if you live in like a suburb of Boston, people always say they're from Boston still.
No, I mean
you were actually like out of.
Yeah, I mean like 5-hour drive out of LA.
That's not the suburbs. But,
you know, no, but
maybe LA doesn't even have suburbs.
No, but when we lived in LA, we were like in Culver City.
The heart of LA.
Culver City. I don't know if you know anything about LA, but Culver City.
I was there for a couple weeks. I wouldn't say that I know much about LA. I got lost in the hills trying to find Hollywood.
So you know where Santa Monica is in Hollywood?
I went to Santa Monica, the pier, the beach. So I tried to walk back and realized you shouldn't try to do that.
So I was kind of like in between like Santa Monica and Hollywood.
All right.
Kind of right here, and then Santa Monica's here, Venice Beach is here, and then I lived on Venice Boulevard. So
it's like right in the heart of LA then.
Right in the heart of LA. But I was a kid.
That's kind of cool.
You know, my dad was working in the film industry. I to this day, I still don't understand. I do not understand why he left LA.
He stopped.
You know, like, because like basically like we moved to LA for his passion for. I mean, I was three years old when we moved to LA, but he moved to LA to get into the movie business because he wanted to make films. And then we moved away.
I mean, I would guess most people that move to LA move because
that's it.
Some part of them are going there because they want to be involved. I mean, I would be lying if I said I didn't want to move to LA because of the entertainment industry, but it's also like brutally cutthroat. Like
it's brutal. It's hard. You know, it's so hard. And going back to my original point was that like if I could change anything about my own life, I wish I would have pursued film much younger.
Oh, yeah,
and not as like a 40-year-old fucking old man.
I mean, I 100% agree with that as a 30-something-year-old, almost old man.
You know, like, because when I was in high school, like my dad gave me a camcorder. I used to run around with that camcorder all the time, filming stuff, just making home videos, making little like short films with my neighbors, like zombie invasion on the whatever, right? This little short
cul-de-sac.
The short little 1 minute films, just whatever, right? Like bury me in the fucking garden and then
stick my hand
out of the dirt and crawl out. We used to just like have fun. And then I don't know what it is about life that made me lose that that kind of passion, or didn't drive me towards that kind of.
I think the problem is, and I think this was my case as well, you don't realize that that's a direction that you can go. Mm-hmm. It sort of goes back to what we were talking about earlier with like, you go to college, you get a job, you do whatever, you get a job at a desk somewhere, who cares what, you have the house in the suburbs. You just sort of think that's where you go. There aren't two paths, that's the only path, and you have to take it. And you enjoy doing whatever that creative thing that you like doing is. In both of our cases, I think it was probably related to film, but you don't realize that's somewhere that you don't realize that's a path. So you stop doing it because you're supposed to. Maybe now it's different. I don't know, but at least when I was growing up, I loved performing. I was on the demonstration team and the tournament team at my martial arts school. I did those videos.
Yeah, I was in acting classes. I was in a mock trial where I played like the prosecution attorney. I mean, that was fucking
so fun. But
fun.
You just don't realize that it's a way you can go. Like you don't realize that you can be like, I'm gonna keep doing this. You're like, all right, I'm 16. It's time to it's time to go do whatever. It's time to study for the SATs or whatever. You don't realize that that's a. And I mean, maybe that's good considering how cutthroat the entertainment industry is and how hard it is to make any money there. But you just don't realize that's an option. It's not that you stopped enjoying those things. It's that you didn't know you could do that.
Or nobody pushed you.
Yeah, no one told you could do it, so that you should keep trying.
Yeah, it's
it makes me think of the director Robert Rodriguez. Mm-hmm. He did like the Machete Sin City guy. He wrote a book about him, similar upbringing to what you just described. He had like a little camcorder and he went around filming short films with his like siblings and he edited it on 2 VCRs. I don't even know how that works. I guess you can. And he wrote a book about how like he started doing that and ended up making El Mariachi. It's an excellent read. I'll send you the name of the book. Rebel Without a Crew, it's called. I would definitely recommend reading it to anybody who's like interested in film or anything. It's a very interesting story. He basically like made a movie for like $7,000. He was like, I want to make a movie, and he just went and did it. And it's like, you could do that? Like, I didn't realize that was an option.
It's totally crazy. My favorite director of all time, Quentin Tarantino. He's working on his last movie.
I heard that. Is this one of those things where it's actually going to be his last movie, or is he like, this is my last movie, and then there's 10 more later?
I think that he'll always like be involved in Hollywood,
but he's not going to direct to like.
But like, I don't think he's going to like write and direct anymore. He'll definitely like produce. I think
he's going to be involved with movies. He's not going to like disappear to a mountain hut somewhere.
I mean, maybe
it's possible, I guess.
But there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I'd read that and I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, like I saw it on the Joe Rogan podcast where Joe and him were talking about it. Like, he wants to decide when he wants to leave the industry instead of just keep making movies.
That I can definitely understand.
To eventually like you're irrelevant anymore.
I definitely understand. There's a lot in like the American entertainment industry where stuff just keeps going because it might make a little bit more money. You might be able to squeeze a little bit of something out of it when it would be much better to sort of go out, like TV shows in particular. Like
go out the bang.
If you'd ended 3 seasons earlier, you could have finished your storyline, ended on a high note, and instead everyone's sick of you because you decided to drag it out for no reason.
I mean, it seems like most TV series are like that. It's like 3 seasons are fucking incredible. And it was like The Sopranos. I don't know if you ever watched The Sopranos.
I haven't, and my friend Alan always gives me.
But Sopranos was like the first 3 seasons, fucking beautiful. And then 4, 5, 6 was just like
good, but not
not like it was, but I think like as a director, as a filmmaker, he there's not many directors that like take the risk that he take.
Yeah, his movies definitely don't.
He doesn't give
I
a fuck.
feel don't sort of hem to like you have to do this if you want to make money, or we're not going to give you funding for. He's like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing,
and he's old school. Like he doesn't want like CGI sets. Like if he needs a Western city,
he's going to go out to a city in the middle of the desert. Oh yeah,
you know.
He's going to film on location, or he's going to build his location.
He doesn't want like he wants like blood packs that explode and not like
squibs. I think they're called.
You know, I think that it's like it's old. It's like old school. Mm-hmm. You know, I think that's what the life is missing. Some of that old school, flavor. Mm-hmm. I think with the age of cell phones and social media, this is that, too many people spend more time on their phones than like going to go do something.
Than living. You spend more time living other people's lives than living your own life.
Yeah. That's exactly, like.
I'm going to write that quote down to use later.
like in I'm sure your father or your grandfather, right? Like those kind of generation of and same for me. Not maybe not so much my father, but his father and my grandfather on my mom's side, like they could fix their own cars and fucking like do shit.
Yeah, my dad like changed the oil. He'd like change the oil in my grandpa's car when we went out on the weekend. I don't know how cars work. I'm not even sure I knew how to pop the hood on
I couldn't even change the oil, of the car that I fucking owned when I, used to own a car.
I don't know how to be.
I don't know how to do shit. It's like, it feels so like.
If the world went to hell, I would die very quickly. I don't know how to do anything except
you and me both,
make memes.
Like I could start a campfire with a lighter or a match.
Yeah. A bunch of gas.
A bunch of gas, But like, just.
Yeah, I couldn't fix things. I couldn't. I've thought about that too before. Like, people who like, oh, this thing broke, so I'm gonna fix it. Like, wait, you don't just
buy a new one.
Pay someone else to come in and fix it. Or buy a new one.
Yeah.
You're gonna fix it yourself. What do you mean?
Yeah, like it's like me and my wife have the same kind of thing. It's like something breaks at our house. Probably like a $5 fix, or $20 fix. It looks broken.
Yeah, just get a new one.
Let's just get a new one. If we could like knew how to like screw in a screw and replace a.
Hey, could do it yourself in 10 minutes.
We could do. Just we're soft.
I wish I could fix more things, but it's one of those like. It's time you need to. It's probably not super hard to learn, but it's time you've got to invest in learning how to do it. And in modern life, it's
too convenient. I feel like it's in some ways it's like
it's so easy to buy that new thing. Like
and back then it was like things weren't as convenient. Mm-hmm. Like before, like you bought a refrigerator or a stove. It's like okay, I'm buying the stove. It's gonna be my stove.
It needs to get 25 years out of it before you consider replacing it.
Yeah, you never think about like, 10 years, forget it.
Yeah, it's not. Why it's junk if it only lasts 10 years? Right? That's definitely I can like things were made to. Sort of goes back to like planned obsolescence, with people. Something people like to blame companies for doing nowadays. I don't know if they are or there aren't. If they are, they aren't. But people are like, oh, yeah, this is supposed to fail in X number of years to make you buy a new one.
Right.
But back then it was like, no, this. We designed this to last forever. And if it breaks, please fix it so that it continues to last forever. Like, we don't want you to have to replace it in X
I think my
years.
grandmother had a rotary phone for 20 plus years.
I mean, I was growing up and my grandparents had a rotary phone still.
Yeah, my parents in my house. I'm younger. I'm older than you, but we had rotary phones back in the day. Mm-hmm. And our first phone. Definitely a rotary phone. But
yeah, I can't fix anything. I couldn't. Sometimes I try. I'm like, oh yeah, this probably isn't bad. The sink is leaking. It's probably just something I got to tighten somewhere. Like 15 minutes later,
you feel so proud afterward too. Like
except I couldn't fix it. I couldn't. It's definitely just something I got to screw in, but I can't figure. I like electrocuted myself. Like the light in our kitchen like got stuck. So we're like, me and my wife are like trying to figure out what to do, and she like unscrews a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, we should just have someone come and fix it.
Yeah, that's
we're like unscrew it. She's like, and we're like looking at it, we're like pushing the things. Okay, well, this is what turns it on and off, and we can't quite figure out what's right. And I like at some point just like touch the wrong thing and just like electrocute myself. It's like I wouldn't last long if I had to fix my own stuff.
But it's just like fuck, man. Like, and but also too, like we live in a world where things are like so easy and convenient. Like you're talking about Rodriguez, and he was editing on dual VHS,
like two VCRs or something. Like I read that and I was like, I couldn't even comprehend how it was even supposed to work.
And you think about like what he was using to film, what he was using to edit,
and
then there's a guy like me,
something with your phone, and
the guy like me, like, fuck, I can't make good videos unless I have a gimbal, and this brand new light that just came out, If I don't have that light, I'm definitely not gonna make good.
I'm not even gonna try
good videos. I'm not even gonna try, It's just like, you see that guy on YouTube, he made that fucking video because of that light.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that light, it would be garbage.
It would have been terrible. It's just like, fuck, man. I don't know, dude. I don't know about your life, but like, I wish for sure, like, I would have motivated myself or had somebody to motivate me to either do two things at a younger age. Could go into filmmaking, I've always when I was young, like people asked me like, "What do you want to be?" I always wanted to be a film director. I grew up on like Tim Burton. Like for a while, he was my idol. Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice, Batman, like fucking for the era, he was an amazing director. Lost his way a little bit, I think, in his newer movies and TV shows.
After
and shit.
Nightmare Before Christmas, it was
maybe. One of my favorite movies of all time, Mars Attacks. Have you ever?
I'm not familiar with it.
Not familiar. It's fucking.
Is it Tim Burton?
Tim Burton, yeah. But the cast is unbelievable. It has like Jack Nicholson, Danny DeVito.
I was like, pull out all the stops for cast then.
The cast.
Considering the cast, I'm kind of confused why I haven't heard of it.
The cast is. I think I went to see this movie like 10 times in the theater, but I was like in high school. But unbelievable movie.
Mars Attacks, you said it was called.
Mars Attacks, Tim Burton. I'm sure you'll recognize like the character, like the little Martian and shit like that. But fucking amazing movie, amazing story, amazing cast. And that's what I feel like. I was either destined to be like a director. I just never made it.
It's not that you didn't make it. It's that you didn't take the steps that you needed to try to make it. Like had you taken the steps, maybe you would have made it. Maybe you wouldn't have made it still, but maybe you would have. But there's like steps that you need to take in order to get there. And if, like we were talking about earlier, like you sort of fell out of it for a while because you didn't realize you could take that path. Had you taken that path, maybe you would have made it. But it's not that you didn't make it. It's that you veered.
Well, I never tried.
Yeah, exactly. You didn't realize that was a thing you could do, so you stopped. Right. I'm definitely in the same boat. Like right now, I spent the last couple years sort of working on a blog that really didn't pan out.
This is the
Myriad Misadventures. It's still there. I'm still
so
working on it.
So what is that about? Because I don't even know.
It's a travel and martial arts blog essentially. Okay. I live abroad. I figured I should do. I'm not a very good blogger though. So I'm also not a great martial artist. So I'm not great at either end of it. Unfortunately, I'm also not great at traveling. I'm just gonna go here and do these things. It'll be kind of fun, I hope. But I've spent the last couple of years sort of working on that. It didn't really pan out. I'm not really sure where I want to go with it. But the last maybe year or two, I've been focusing more on like short films and stuff with a couple of friends of mine, including SJ, who you had on the show earlier. I've got two short films that we filmed already that I haven't finished editing that I did with SJ and another guy, Raj. He's a stand-up comedian. He was at the No Disintegration show where we were talking. He was the comedian.
Oh, he was the comedian. Okay, yeah.
Him and I, me and SJ did a couple of.
So you write these films?
I do, to the detriment of the film. I'm an okay actor. I'm not even going to say I'm a good actor. I'm an okay passable maybe. I do some of the writing and the directing simply because there's not another person to do them, not because I'm good at them. I'm not a good writer. I'm not a good director of photography or anything. Oh, thank you. My goal when I started doing the short films was sort of, they go back to like 2017. I'd like posted on WeChat like that I wanted to do like a fight scene. And Uncle Money actually hit me up about maybe, thank you again, about maybe doing something. And we met up and we talked about something, but he's a very busy guy and we never managed to sort of sync up our schedules. But then I did a trio of short films with a friend of mine named Dan, who's not in China anymore. Tourist versus expat. I was like an expat here, and he was like a tourist. And they were really just excuses to get in a fight. The story was incredibly flimsy, just so that we could fight after. But I sort of did a bunch of things like that, sort of flimsy stories, just so we could do a bit of choreography, which I'm also not super great at. Sort of the through line here. But the goal was always to sort of find people that were good at the things that I wasn't good at, because filmmaking, it's a very, maybe more than any other art form, very collaborative. Like, I mean, making music, I assume, is quite collaborative as well, based on what I've watched SJ do. But I'm not sure anything is quite as collaborative as filmmaking. So I was like, this is the thing that I'm not good at, but I'm okay at. And what I need to do is make a bunch of that stuff until I can find people that are good at the other things. And I think in the last couple years, maybe starting right before COVID, I sort of started to meet some people that were good at the things that I wasn't good at. And where I am now is sort of hoping to work with more of them, where they can work on the things that they're good at, and I can work on the things that I'm good at. The two aforementioned shorts with SJ and Raj were still ones that was mostly us. So they're definitely not quite as good because, again, I'm not very good at writing or cinematography, DPing. Anything that's good was probably
DPing is filming?
Yeah, the director of photography, the guy who's sort of in charge of the camera. A lot of the time, like, especially in short films, I think the director and the DP are the same person. But you get to, like, real big feature films and stuff, they're usually different people. So if there's like a good shot in those, it's usually because SJ was like, hey, can I try shooting it this way? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then it turned out way better than whatever I'd planned. But then I'm working on, so there's those two that are filmed and I just got to finish editing. And then there's a couple other things that are sort of being worked on. One short film with a Filipino director, lives out in Sheco, named Anthony. He's a photographer by trade. He does some directing for fun on the side. We started it last year, but we're sort of hung up on location for one of the scenes, so we need to work that out. And then Alan, who I think I've mentioned a couple times, he was at the wrestling show with me. He's an incredible storyteller. The stuff he writes just blows my mind. Like I wish I could come up with things even half as creative as what he comes up with. So we have Wandering Lonely Dragon, which is a live action sort of comedy homage to like old Hong Kong kung fu films that we're working on. We started filming it, but we sort of lost our location, so we got to find a new location for that. And then an animation called Igloo Bigloo that we're working on too. He's learning some animation in software called Moho, and he wrote a script. Every time I read it, I laugh. I don't know how he comes up with this stuff, but like that's exactly what I needed. Like I can't write, and I realize I can't write, so I need to find people that can do it. And Alan absolutely can write. Like he's
hired to your weaknesses.
Yeah, exactly. I can do this thing. I'm going to find people that can do the other things, because nothing I do is ever going to be good until I find people that can do those things, because it's just not
the collaboration.
Yeah. So we're working on Igloo Bigloo too. He's working on learning the animation right now. He wrote a script that's incredible. So I feel like I'm sort of in a similar boat to you in that case. Sort of like this is a thing that I like. I didn't realize that I liked it or should have done it quite so much when I was younger, and now I'm sort of working on it more, but it's sort of a pivot away from the blog that I had been working on for.
The blog is a written blog or a video blog?
It's pretty much all the things. I have a website for it, myriadmisadventures.com, where I like actually write a blog, and then it's got like the full suite of social media: YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Weibo, Douyin.
Threads is still popular?
I don't use Twitter anymore. Back in the day, it was Twitter, but I don't use Twitter anymore. It's I find it's not a great place anymore. So
What, Twitter?
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about, asked about Threads.
Well, Threads is Twitter essentially, but owned by Meta.
Yeah. As a social media director at this company that you work for, is Threads?
We do use Threads. We still use Twitter for the company.
But is Threads a viable?
There are a lot of people on Threads, not as many as on Twitter. There are a lot of people on Threads. The problem is, from a business standpoint, Threads is not quite finished yet. Meta, I think, sort of launched it because they saw that Musk was sort of torpedoing Twitter, and they were like, "Here's our chance to sort of."
Because it was basically like launched and then never heard of it again.
It wasn't quite done and it's been slowly getting it launched in like the middle of last year or something. And it's been slowly getting better. They've been adding features, but it's not quite as feature rich as it needs to be for a business. I think for like a person using a social media site, it's probably better than Twitter now. Twitter is just a cesspool of garbage and people.
Because of the users or because of the functions?
The problem is, when Elon Musk took over, he fired like 75% of the staff. Like, how are you supposed to run this site when you gutted the staff? So a lot of people left, and the people that stayed are maybe not the best people on the internet. So the people that stuck around on Twitter are like businesses, and then sort of the bottom of the barrel internet users, like the people that you try to avoid because they're so toxic. And then there's other people that keep using it because as a business platform, it's still a little more viable than Threads. Because like Threads has you can't advertise on Threads or anything. So as a business, if you're like specifically trying to make money, Threads I definitely don't think is quite there yet. But I've had more fun on Threads, interacting with people and meeting people than I ever did on Twitter, even when Twitter was a better platform, I think. But the people that are left on Twitter, I just don't really want to interact with. So I've probably 6 months ago, I just stopped using it. I was like, personally, I use it for work still because I have to.
Because talking about the Twitter X, do you feel like, so you think that Elon joining the company was a bad?
Oh, absolutely. I think Elon Musk joining the company was awful for Twitter. Well, buying the company, which he didn't even want to buy. He as I understand it,
he kind of trolled it.
Tweeted something like trolling Twitter essentially, and then sort of got forced to buy it, and then was like, "Well, I'm just going to destroy it because why not?" And I feel like watching Elon Musk try to use Twitter. I hope he doesn't sue me for this or something.
I doubt you're in his radar.
Is just like defeating his like the myth of the like billionaire genius. Like no billionaire genius would do to Twitter what like Twitter as a brand was so valuable. Just the brand of Twitter. And Elon Musk was like, I'm just going to change the name.
Yeah.
To X, which is an awful name. But why would you take something that is valuable and just throw it away to give it a name, to give it a different name?
Tax write-off? I don't know.
I mean, it's the same thing. I don't think he gained anything on taxes. He just has this like weird love of the letter X for some reason. Like he
names his kid X, Xion or whatever.
He started PayPal, right? And it was originally like X.com was like PayPal's like URL back then. He's just got this like weird fascination with X, and Twitter was a valuable brand, just the name Twitter. And he was just like, yeah, we're going to change it to X.
Yes,
like,
that was the. I think that I like Elon. Mm-hmm. I think we need more rich people like him. I don't think it was a good choice to change the name because Twitter is such a unique name, and
X had its own verbs like tweet. I mean,
yeah, and X is so generic, right?
And it's just you still have to go to twitter.com to get to X. Like,
but I still think that like Twitter pre him, like they made some like stupid decisions.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not going to. I'm not going to. Twitter was a toxic place, I think, before Elon.
Like
even before Musk, it was a toxic.
I don't think
place.
you could ever like ban a U.S. president from using Twitter. I mean, I mean, like, he's the president of the fucking country. You know, we live in America where it should have freedom of speech.
Even though Twitter's a company, though. You don't have freedom of speech on Twitter. They can do whatever they want.
Well, yeah, of course. And they did.
I don't think banning Trump was a bad idea, personally. But
Really?
yeah, I don't. I mean, he incited people to violence. I don't think if someone's inciting people to violence on your website.
I'm not a Trump person, right? I don't vote because I think they're all corrupt. I think no matter what party you're,
I don't think you're wrong.
involved with, they're all corrupt. But I do think that banning people for speaking, I don't think Trump. Yes, he incited people to go to the Capitol. I don't think he specifically said break it open and fucking smash the place. He didn't do. I don't think he said anything on Twitter that was against our constitutional right of free speech. And so that's where I feel that Twitter made the mistake to ban him, because I don't think that he spoke freely, but I don't think he said on Twitter to be violent.
I mean, he might have been banned by then already. I don't know. It might have been somewhere else that he was posting. I'm not going to argue for.
I think it was
against.
after. I think it was because of that.
I think it was probably after.
I think it was because of that he got banned.
I don't want to argue for
Maybe
or
I'm
against
wrong.
it. It's a completely different argument that I'm not sure I'm quite well versed in enough to make a compelling argument for or against. But I do personally think Twitter was they definitely made mistakes. I agree with you there, and I think it was a toxic place even before Musk. And unlike you, I'm no fan of Musk. I think it was a bad place before Musk bought it, but I think after he bought it, it became a much worse place.
See, I don't use it. I'm honest. I don't.
So
I only can. I think you use it every day because of your work and your job.
Every time I go on it for work, I end up in a much worse place mentally.
It's another. Every time you log on Twitter, it's another WeChat post on your moments.
I don't use it personally because I've stopped using it. All of my I changed, like I made my profiles all private. The thing at the top says go find me on Threads. Well, it was like October or something. I was like I can't use Twitter. It's not worth it. The people that are still here aren't good people, I don't think, in general.
But like, who are these people?
I mean, they're it's just like random anonymous internet trolls. That's like all Twitter is anymore. And some people like the internet trolls. They think they're funny. I think they're generally dangerous because there's just too many people that don't realize that internet trolls are trolls. They think they're like serious, and it's like that's a problem. The act of trolling, I don't think, is necessarily a problem, but when people can't realize that what someone's doing is trolling, I think it becomes problematic because the things that they're saying are often quite inflammatory because they think people realize that it's sort of a joke, and a lot of people just don't. And Twitter just mostly seems to be, it seems to be like the vast majority of people on Twitter. At least there's probably normal people on Twitter, but the algorithm's never going to show you them. It's only going to show you the trolls that pay Elon Musk money for a blue check. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. So the blog has a Twitter. My Myriad Misadventures has a Twitter page, but I don't use it anymore. Any Myriad Misadventures stuff goes through Threads now. And I don't love how many social media platforms Meta owns. They own Facebook, they own Instagram, they own WhatsApp, they own Threads. I don't love.
Oh, they own WhatsApp too? I don't know that.
It's very monopolistic. I think that's a word. I don't love that, but the problem is it was the best alternative I found to Twitter. But the blog has a full set of social media sites. I post long-form videos on YouTube. I post short-form videos on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. The blog on the website. Photos on Instagram, and then their Chinese counterparts. I've got like a Weibo, a Xiaohongshu, a Douyin. I haven't posted much since like the middle of December. I was just tired. I was like, I need to take a break. I'll hopefully get back into it next week when work starts. I've got Instagram weeks lined up for a couple weeks. I just got to edit the photos. I would probably give up short form video, like Twitter style or TikTok style stuff, except I'm fairly popular on Douyin.
Chinese app.
Yeah. I've got like 85,000 followers on the Chinese version of TikTok. So the thing that I enjoy the least is those short form videos, but it's also the only one that's had any success at all.
Right.
So I'm sort of in this place where I don't know what I want to do with the blog because once I started posting those short form videos on YouTube, YouTube started doing a little bit better because I can post them much more consistently. Longer form YouTube videos just take a long time to make, even if I have all the footage. And with 40 hours a week of work, when I was going to the gym on top of that for a while, it's hard to find time to edit those videos, especially because you're like, well, I need to make these short form videos because I need to push out more of them. So then they get in the way of making the long form videos. So I'm still posting like when I was in Malaysia last week, I was posting on like Threads. I wasn't doing new Instagram posts, but I was like, oh, here's what we're doing today, like on Threads. I used to do it on Twitter. When we travel, I would sort of live post on the trip a little bit. I've been posting a bit of short forms, those old TikTok videos, reposting to Instagram, but I'm really not sure because what I want to focus on more is the short films. I want to focus on that more, but I don't.
The creative art.
Yeah, I have trouble giving up the blog because it's really the only thing I have control over in my life. Like everything else is like, hey, you have to do this, so I do it. If I want to get paid, I have to wake up and go to work. But the blog, I have control over. If I want to, like when I started, it was just travel. I was travel and comedy, and I realized I was awful at comedy, so I immediately cut that out. And then one day I was like, oh, I want to add martial arts, so I added martial arts. If I want to take a week off, I can take a week off. Like I can. I have control over it. I can do what I want with it. And it's like the only thing in my life that I have any control over. So I'm sort of reluctant to give it up, even though I realize that it's really not going anywhere. But I've had it for probably 6 years now.
Yeah, just keep doing it, man. I mean, fucking cheers, dude.
I had a blast, man. Thanks for having me on. I haven't said anything too stupid yet, made an ass of myself.
Yeah. We need to do that fucking absence, and then you might.
Yeah, that's true. We'll do that after we stop filming. So if I say anything stupid, it won't be on camera.
Yeah, because like there's only been one time where I had to edit out stuff on the podcast.
Was it after the absinthe?
Yes. It was because like I had Andy who makes this product and makes the absinthe, and I blacked out. You know, like
I don't remember saying any of these things.
Like I was watching the footage, and I was just like,
"Oh no!"
I really don't want people seeing me in that light, you know. Or
not only do I not want people to see this, but I don't think I want this footage to exist.
So, it still exists, but I don't want it to be public.
Yeah, I had absinthe at a bar in Salamanca. I think when I was in college, I did a summer semester in Salamanca. That was my first time in Spain, between junior and senior year. And back then, I still partied and stuff. That Seth would have loved your parties, your early Shenzhen parties. And we went to a bar and we had absinthe. It was just like a shot. It wasn't like the way you're supposed to do it with the shit. I've never had it that way. I've always wanted to, but then I saw it was 80%. I was like, oh my god, 160. That's like 160 proof, right?
It's nasty.
Oh. It's brutal. That's like Bacardi 151 day in college. Like I don't fondly remember that day.
But going back to social media, right? I make this podcast and I have my own YouTube channel, and I think I have like 70 followers on YouTube. I don't post anywhere else. Like I don't post on Facebook. I don't post on Twitter. I don't post on Instagram. It's kind of just make some video and post it on YouTube.
I think YouTube's the best of the sites, personally.
For sure. And the crazy thing is, so I got this comment on my channel, and it was this children's, or this is an author. And she also writes a children's book. And she was like she wrote me this beautiful comment on one of my videos, like, where have you been all my life? Like, I've been looking for someone that can help me print and design books and shit like that. And I replied her, and I emailed her. And actually, like, became like a real job. Mm-hmm. Like that I was able to make money on, and so we produced her book. We did she wrote a book about her neighbor who was turning 85, and she wanted to give him a copy of the book before
Before it came out.
On his birthday.
All right.
So I was able to. I said like, no problem, we can do that, but you have to do BAM. It's a short turnaround. She already had her art already finished for a children's book. We produced the whole book, sent a digital. We only printed 3 copies, one for me, one for her, one for the birthday party for the birthday guy, and he was able to get it, for his birthday. So after this holiday, we're gonna actually make some tweaks to the book and then print the.
So there's going to be like a main physical version of the book.
Yeah,
You just haven't done it yet. You just made 3 initial copies.
Yeah, like we did digital printing, so it's like more expensive than firing up the big printing machines. And,
I'm going to pretend I know what that means.
Yeah, the offset printing. So like the CMOS. Anyways, we made 3 books. They look good. We're gonna make some changes and then print the real version that she'll have available for sale eventually.
You're not going to do Malone's book then?
I told him that when he's ready to do it, I'll help him.
He's got like a
He told me about it.
a printer right here, and you. I didn't realize he'd written 2 already until I listened to his.
Yeah,
episode.
like he told me like the whole concept. It's like a fantasy based. I don't remember exactly. But it's like something where like two realities or realms exist.
He told us about it back when we were at the stunt place.
Yeah.
And I knew he'd finished 1, but I didn't realize he'd finished 2 until.
And that's impressive.
Oh, yeah.
Like to write a book.
I can't even write a single chapter. He's out here writing two
I
and a half books.
I can't even write a paragraph. Fuck, man.
I'm also waiting for your music video with SJ. Well, you guys talked about that at the very end of the podcast, so you might have been too much.
Dude,
gin
we've been talking. I've been talking with him about that for even before the podcast.
Oh man, get on! I heard about that. I was like, yes, please do that.
Yeah,
My body is ready.
Because I think like maybe you can help if you want to be involved.
Yeah, him and I worked on a lot of those music videos in 2021. A lot of those music videos I helped him film, which is why they're.
I wanted to film it here. I wanted it in the studio. So like, there's one song I really liked of his, and
is it East Side? I'm a big fan of East Side.
No, it's not East Side. I don't remember the name, but I have a projector and I had like this idea, and I have like I just want to do something very like minimal, just like isolated into. Only film it in this space in my studio. Hopefully we
because I heard that, I was like, yes, please do that.
Yeah,
like Shady Monkey's gonna be able to make a way better video than like the music is excellent. His music's incredible, but I helped him film, and I'm not a very good I'm not good at filming, so they would definitely benefit from having someone who knows how to film.
I don't know how to film too, dude. Dude, trust me, I don't know. How to,
You're just directing. We got to bring in another DP.
No, I can film, right? And I'm very good at pretending
that you can film.
that I can film, right? And I can produce stuff that looks decent, but I'm not satisfied with my abilities.
Nobody is, though. Nobody in any creative profession, in my opinion, is satisfied with what they make after. Like the version of the thing you're making in your head is always an impossible thing to make. Like whatever you make is never going to quite live up to the version of it in your head. And I think that's just a curse of being a creative. I say as if I'm a creative.
You are a creative.
There's just a version in your head that exists in this like impossibly perfect state, and no matter what you do, you're never going to be able to quite reach what it is you have in your head. Whatever you make, like the most successful actors or directors or photographers or painters in the world are probably not happy with what they're making. They're making like world-class stuff, and they're probably not happy with it because what they have in their head is just so impossibly perfect that even the incredible things they're making can't quite live up to that, which gives me a little bit of comfort, because then it's like, well, no matter how good a thing that I make is, I'm going to be upset with it just because the version in my head is just too good.
The thing that I learned to live with is it doesn't need to be perfect. You just need to make it.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like-
absolutely.
like-
There's like a there's a subset of creatives that never get started because they want everything to be perfect.
And that's always like usually my biggest problem is like I want to have this equipment or this fucking thing or this whatever, and it prevents me from like starting.
See, I'm the exact opposite. I'm the exact. I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I can't do these things. I know I can't do these things. I'm just gonna make this shit. Like,
See, that's beautiful.
I'm just like well, I suppose there's an argument to be made between like, do I make one thing that's really, really good or 10 things that are kind of bad because I'd rather just make stuff? And the camp that I fell in was I'm just going to make 10 things because like we talked about earlier, like I can't write. I can't write good stories. I'm not a director. I'm not a DP. I'm not a cinematographer. The only thing that I'm even remotely good at, and I'm not very good at it, is acting. What I need to do is I need to find the person who's good at writing scripts, the person who can make a story for me to, the person who can create a character for me to inhabit, the person that can then film that. And the best way to do that is to make a whole bunch of stuff and hope they see something. Like if I go, I need to make something that's perfect, and then it just never comes to fruition, I'm never going to meet those people that can do those things that I can't do. You know what I mean? So I would rather have a whole bunch of stuff that's not that great. Like I look back on the first thing I made, The Map, which was the first of the Tourist versus Expat trilogy, and it's awful. Like it's so bad. It's really bad. I love it because it was the first thing I made, but it's not good even by my standards. But I made it, and I put it out there, and people saw it, and that one short film is why I met all those other people. It's why I met Anthony, the photographer. It's why I met Anton, who's
the photographer.
He's a DP.
Okay.
He's a Ukrainian DP, actually. When you were talking to SJ about a Ukrainian DP, he thought that it was that Anton. It's why I met Ran, who's a Chinese DP. I met all these people because I was like, I know I can't do these things. I'm just going to do it anyway and hope the people who can do those things see it. And then they did. And there's like this like whole, I can't even believe that it happened, list of like timeline of things that happened that resulted in me meeting these people and doing stuff with these people that only happened because I was like, I'm not going to try to make these things perfect. I'm just going to close my eyes and throw the dart because that's what we can do. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, we got to get some lights. We got to get the perfect location. We got to get this and that. We're just going to go out to this random place and do this shit because we can. Right. And then we're going to start working on the next thing. We're going to do it again. And I feel like I've made more stuff than most people have. And it's not great stuff. I'll be the first person to admit that. But we made it. Mm-hmm. And that's helped me meet the people that can do the things that I can't do. And I look at the people that are like, we need to be able to do this and this and this and this and this, and we can't do anything until it's all perfect. And I understand why they're doing that, but I also look at them like, just go and make something. Just go and create. Like, go and create, and you're going to meet the people that can help you create more, better stuff because you just created.
Right.
And I guess that's my one strong suit. The one thing that I'm good at, I guess, is just going and do. And I honestly think that people hit me up and work with me, not because I'm good at anything, but because they know that I will do stuff.
We'll show
They're
up.
not like, oh yeah, Seth is so like. You talk to people and you're like SJ. He's an incredible rapper. He's an incredible artist. No one says that about me. No one's like, oh yeah, Seth is incredible at X, Y. No. People hit up me because they're like, oh yeah, if we go, hey Seth, do you want to act in this thing? You're not even going to tell him what it is, and he's going to say yes, and he's going to show up. Like, it has nothing to do with skill or talent. I'm not good like all of these other people who do all these things. The people that you've had on your podcast before, people hit me up, and they work with me, and I get to work with them, which is the real thing. It's not that they get to work with me; it's that I get to work with them, simply because I'm just going out and doing stuff.
Right.
And they go, okay, well, I want to make this thing happen. Seth made all these things happen. Like, he actually did stuff. I know that if I hit up Seth and go, hey, do you want to be part of this thing for whatever, he's going to show up.
And that's what I think for me, like that's I don't have a community, especially for like filmmaking. I can join. I tried, like before, like there was this guy.
There was another guy at that film and acting meetup at Mambo.
Okay, forget about that.
Like a DP or something.
There was an Indian guy. I don't remember his name. And he was posting in a bunch of groups like, we're looking for people that are interested in making short films, as a lighting technician, as a actor, as a whatever, right? You know, if you want to join, contact me. And so I contacted them. I said I'm interested, right? Because like, as far as filmmaking goes, everything I learned on myself, right? But by yourself, it's limited.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah,
I mean, you can watch 1,000 YouTube videos, but still, like, without like collaboration,
you're going to get good at maybe one of the things
with real people.
One, you need other people to do.
You know, also just the joy of collaborating.
Yeah.
So I wrote him, and then he sent me a bunch of these questions to answer. So I answered everything, and then he didn't invite me to his group. Like I was like unqualified, or something was.
You
wrong.
didn't tick enough boxes.
Something was wrong about like. You know, I didn't like.
You only have 2 lights in the studio. He needed a bare minimum 3 lights.
You know, I didn't even have lights at the time. You know, but the point was like I was ready to work. I didn't care what. I could be a water boy.
Yeah.
I don't give a fuck, man. Like
I just want to be involved. I want to help with this process.
Yeah,
This is what I like
want to
doing.
learn.
I want to be involved.
You know, and I got fucking pushed to the side. It pissed me off so much. It was just like, fuck. Like here's me. I'm like. I have good equipment I can bring to the table. I have a good work ethic I can bring to the table. What don't I fucking meet to your requirement?
Give me a sec while I add you to my list of people to invite whenever I do anything.
You know, it's just like, fuck, man. Like, and it really like, put like a bad like flavor in my mouth. I'm like, man, fuck these guys. You know, just like fuck everybody.
I think I got really lucky. Like you know? the things that led up to me meeting all these people. I look at it and I'm like, how did this even happen? Like, so I don't know if you want to talk about it. I'll go into it because it just seems so unrealistic. Like how could. Because if you look at the Shenzhen filmmaking community, of which I think you and I are a part of,
I'm definitely not a part
I am
of.
Absolutely the least talented person.
Me too.
Like there's nobody. I mean, you have lights and stuff. You have lights.
I have money.
That immediately puts you above me.
I have money. I don't have fucking talent or ability.
I have no idea. And that anybody would want just blows my mind. So I made that first short. I posted about it. I talked to Uncle Money. I'd mentioned to you, and nothing came of it because he's real busy. He's got a lot on his plate. And then I made the map with my friend Dan, and then we made 2 more: the cafe and the tree, which were like sequels to it, about the same characters, the tourist character and the expat character. But that first one, the map, which was hands down the worst one. Dan was back home for something, and he messaged me, and he goes, "Hey, I just found this like short film showing. You should submit the map. It's in Shenzhen." And I was like, "Okay." And it was being run by Anton, that Ukrainian filmmaker, his company. So I submitted it, right? And they accepted it. Yeah, we'll show it. Come on out. Of course, Dan wasn't in Shenzhen at the time, so he couldn't come. So it was just me and my, at the time, girlfriend. We're married now, but we were just dating at the time. So her and I went. And the other films showing at this, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it a film festival. It was a film showing, right? They'd gone to film school, and they like worked in like film production, like they made commercials and stuff. That was their job. And then there was ours. There was the map, which I mean, we didn't. It was a fight. We didn't even have fight sounds. It didn't even occur to me to put in fight sounds. Like that wasn't something I thought. Yeah, like I didn't even think of that. And we very clearly stood out from all these people who knew what they were doing. Like there was a guy, like so after each short film, the person who did it went up and people could ask them questions. And some guy was like, "Did you make it look bad on purpose?" He literally asked me that, and I was like, "Yes." And as I said, "Yes," I looked and just shook my head, "No." Like we were very clearly way out of our league. They accepted us because we were the only like action short. Like when you think like short films, like indie films, like it's like real serious stuff, right? And we just had like this like cheesy excuse to fight. Like Dan, who was playing the tourist character, was like walking around Shenzhen with like a map trying to figure out where he was going. And me, the expat character, was like skateboarding by and like bumped into him and he dropped his map. And we got in a fight. Like that was the whole shtick of the video. And, well, thank you. That was the whole shtick of the video. But it was like an action short, right? And none of these other people had done like something similar because they're all like serious film people. So while we were clearly the worst one in the group, like someone literally was like, "Did you make it look bad on purpose?" We'd also done the only thing in that sort of segment. So I met Anton that way. Anton was he's a filmmaker. He had like a company that like did film production, commercials and stuff, Kickstarter videos. He made videos for people basically. And I feel I think I never talked to him about this. He was sort of like trying to expand his portfolio, and he needed like an action thing. Right? He didn't have any action stuff. So we were the only action. He was like, "Well, it's not good, but I could make it good," right? Like they have the action bit and I have the filmmaking bit. If we put that together, we have something that's good. So I sort of synced up with Anton for that, and then later on made a short film with Anton. We made it in 20. It was at least a year and a half or 2 years later that we finally got around to making it. But we made something, and we made that thing that was much better than anything I could possibly make on my own because I'd taken that short film that was really bad and thrown it out there, which I'd only done because the guy I made it with was like, "Yo, throw it out there." To this day, he's given me some of the best advice I've ever gotten. He said, "What do you have to lose?" He told me, he was like, "What do you have to lose?"
Nothing.
What are they going to do? They're going to say, "It's not good enough, we're not going to put it in." So what? Who cares? Like, what do you have to, and to this day, years later, everything I do, I sort of look at it through that lens that Dan asked me that day. What do you have to lose? Like, I had nothing to lose, and I gained everything, realistically, by throwing it out there. So I got to make that great short film with Anton. I met this Chinese director named Ran, who I've worked with a couple times. I met Anthony, that Filipino director, who I've worked with a couple times. I did something with him and Neto from Tequila Coyotes, like I was talking to you earlier. I met Ray Mafan, who's a guy who's like YouTube personality, is this like washed up Mexican wrestler who I did a couple of videos with at that thing. Like I threw my hat in the ring there, and I was like clearly way out of my league. I jumped into the deep end. I didn't know how to fucking swim. And I met all these people who I got to work with. That's led to other things, and it's like, it seems like the opposite of what happened with you, where you're like, "Yeah, sure, I'll try to work with this guy," and he was like, "Yeah, fuck you, you suck." It's like, wait, what? Where did that come from? Like, I in every case, I always, and this contrasts with my depressing WeChat posts, everything always seems to go my way. Like, I never got locked down. My apartment complex during COVID, I had no problems. I made one god-awful short film and got to meet all these great people to work with. And
well, if you ever need a water boy for your next production,
I mean, 100%. Like,
I'll sign up, dude.
I'll add you to the WeChat group. Like, all the things I can't do, you absolutely can do. Like,
I can't do shit, but I can definitely deliver water. You know?
I guarantee you that everything I can't do, you can't do better than me. I can guarantee that.
Cheers, man.
I've seen the production on these podcasts way more than anything I could ever do.
Yeah, just.
But yeah, absolutely. I'll add you to all the groups. I say as if I have any idea what's going on. I'm just the person who started the group.
No, man. I love to create and I love to be involved in.
Exactly. Like I realize I can't do these things. I just want to meet the other people who can do these things and work with them and help. And
one of my dreams is to like. Halloween is my favorite holiday. One of my dreams is to like make a horror film, a horror short. You know,
I knew that's what that was. It's got to be a horror short. It's got to be a horror short.
Right, every Halloween. But like, I'm not a good writer. I can't write the story. I can do a lot of other parts of the production, but like
you're in the same part as me. You're in the same place as me. You can do X, Y, and Z,
right.
And you need someone who can do A, B, and C.
Right.
I feel like I know people who can do horror shorts. I know some guys who are like at the beginning of COVID when Shenzhen was just like a weird ghost town. Who thought about doing some horror shorts.
For me, the only thing that's missing is a good script. If there was a good script, and then for me it's easy to produce.
I mean, that's exceptionally good since you live so close to Alan, the guy who writes all the good scripts.
Right? If he's willing to do a short, maybe we should.
He's the Wandering Lonely Dragon Igloo Bigloo. He wrote both of them. It wasn't me. That
is he into horror stuff?
He wanted to do he was the guy who wanted to do a horror short, and he was one of the guys who wanted to do it.
Because I want to do a horror short every Halloween.
Every year, come out with one.
Yeah,
I feel like horror is like the go-to like.
It's easy,
low budget.
I mean, it's easy to film. Like
easy as far as like filmmaking things go. Like,
right? Yeah, mostly easy, right? Because there's some beautiful, amazing.
I mean, Blair Witch Project, right? Like,
well, that's a feature movie. We're talking about like 5 minutes, right?
I mean, I assume the Blair Witch Project guys also made a 3-minute short before they made their.
But the Blair Witch Project, a beautiful movie.
I haven't watched it. I don't like scary things.
You never watched it?
I haven't. I like zombie movies, but I don't like horror. I'm too easily scared. It's not that I have a problem with horror films. I'm just too easily scared. I can't watch them.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh god. Like, every time I like see a movie, I'm like, oh, something scary is gonna happen. I'm gonna wait.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wait until that scary thing happened. Then I'll look back.
Cheers, dude.
Absolutely, man. What a great show. I hope for me personally, maybe not for the viewer, but a great show for me.
You know, it doesn't really matter if it's fucking. I mean, I'm in the infancy of making my podcast, and I'm very selfish about the purpose of my podcast. And I talked about this before in other podcasts, but like for me, it's I like to sit down with people and have a long conversation because that rarely happens.
Yeah.
Like even with my best friends in social groups, go to the bar, you go out somewhere.
You start talking about one thing, another person shows up. You talk.
Yeah, it's fucking a pinball.
Yep.
Pinball night, you know, and it's nice to just be able to sit down and talk to somebody and get to know them. Mm-hmm. Like you and me, for example. If it wasn't for this purpose,
when would we have sat down and
probably
shot
never
the shit for 2 hours?
You know, never. You know, and also too, like, and going back to like the selfish reason, selfish. This is.
You got this.
I got. See, I told you I'm terrible at English. You know, the selfish reason why I want to do this podcast is that I want to document a little bit about my life and what I'm thinking, and when my kids grow older,
they can see it.
They can.
This is what Dad was like, and this is what he loved, and this is what he liked to do, and. Right,
and these were his friends, and these were the people he associated with, and
I can feel that.
It's like it's a way to record your life history, because even though I bring you or other people onto the podcast,
the things you're talking about are at least things that you're sort of interested in.
Well, not only that, but like there's moments in the conversation where you can reflect on your own history in your own life.
The things you've done,
and share stories about whatever becomes relevant. You know,
I can understand that selfishness bit. A big problem I've had on social media, I think, is that to be real successful on social media, you need to make the content that your viewers want to see, right? And I feel like I just make the content I want to make, and the stuff that I want to make is not what the viewers want to see. And people that have been successful on social media have said things like, you've got to make 75% for your audience and 25% for you, or numbers like that. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
but see, I disagree.
and I just can't, like, you.
I can't do that.
You got to make enough stuff for you that you don't burn out, but you've got to make enough stuff for your audience that they want to keep watching. And I didn't do that. I just made the stuff that I wanted to make, and it was interesting to me, and I really liked it, but it didn't hold enough interest to the audience, and I kept doing it even though it was selfish in a way. But I enjoyed what I did. Like I liked what I made, even if nobody else did.
I think the most successful people make the stuff that they want to make.
I think the most successful people make the stuff that they
Or
want
at
to
least it
make.
starts that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They make the stuff that they want to make, and they find a way to make their audience also want to see that stuff. I think that's what the most successful people do.
You know.
They make, because if you're always making just what your audience wants to make, you're never really going to enjoy it. The most successful people, I think, find a way to make their audience like the things that they will. They make their audience like the things that they like, so that they can make the stuff that they want, and their audience also likes it. But I feel like it's a very hard thing to do.
You know, like for example, like I was talking earlier about I got this YouTube comment that turned into a job, and now I have a good relationship with this person, and it motivates me to like just keep doing.
Yeah, you want to.
keep,
This person liked what I did.
Right.
They appreciated me. I want to keep doing this and meet more people that.
and it had
that
real
like what I do. Yeah,
real
you
value
have
in
you
life.
have a connection with this person. It benefits you personally. And it's absolutely
A real job, you know,
Yeah.
a real paid job came from it, you know, and that's like my wife, right? She always like gives me like, oh, you should do this, and you should do this, and this is how like the successful people are doing it. But it's like, fuck no, man. I just want to do what I want to create things that come from my heart. And it doesn't matter if it's fucking good. It doesn't matter if it's fucking bad. I just want to create the content that I want to create, put it out there. You know, like I said, like my channel where this podcast goes has 70 people following.
69 people plus me.
69 people plus you, you know? It's good enough for me, you know? And I'm happy to get one more.
Yeah,
you know?
that's 69 people that like what you do. Like,
You know?
a lot of people never find anybody that likes what they do. Like,
So-
and to have 69 of them, like, sure, everyone's like, yeah, I want to have a bajillion people.
A million fans. I mean,
how
I would
many
like to.
But how many people can even say that I have 69 people that are seeing what I do and enjoy and actually enjoy? Even
We
a
got
lot-
80,000, right?
that's a whole other argument. I feel like the problem is I got those 80,000 people not from like slowly generating people that liked my content, but from a couple of viral videos. And you have a viral video and tons of people follow you, but they don't really like what you do. So you sort of slowly lose them, and that's sort of where I'm at. I had a couple of very viral videos that caused me to hit close to 100,000 followers, but a lot of them then realized that I liked this one video that went viral, but I don't really like what that person does. So then you just have to sit there and watch your followers go down. Which is
Adds to your bad Monday weekend.
Every Monday morning you wake up, I lost another 25 followers. But a lot of people can't even say that they have 69 people. They can't even say they have 10 people. They can't even say they have one person that truly likes what they do. And for the creative person that just wants to make something, even having one person that truly enjoys what you do is so important. And I feel like that's to sort of circle back to other stuff we talked about, where so many people are unhappy, something we never quite got into, because they're fundamentally disenchanted with that life they were sold, right? Like, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's stable, it's secure, you have a paycheck every month. But there's so many people that they just want to create, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, of any people. I know you know what I mean. They just want to create. They want somebody, they want to make something, and they want that something that they make to resonate with somebody. And yeah, it's great if you can be that person where that thing that you make resonates with 1 billion people. But that's not realistic, right? And most people can't even get that thing that they make to resonate with 50 people or 10 people or even one person. And I think that for the creative, even to be able to resonate with a couple people is just incredibly important. Even if there's a dozen people that are looking at what you do and they're like, I see you, I see what you're doing, and I fucking love it. And that means the world to a creative.
And cheers to that, dude.
I say that as the most self-deprecating creative in Shenzhen.
Yeah, man, it's hard to create. It's hard to just to even
Put yourself out there.
push yourself to create something, and it's even harder to put it publicly.
Yeah. You making it is one thing, and then showing it to other people is it's terrifying.
So as long as you ignore the bullshit and just keep creating, and you have the means to create
That's
in a happy
huge thing. Like,
space.
I'm fortunate enough to have the means to create. I'm not one of those like pull myself up by your bootstraps person. Like I'm where I am today because I was incredibly lucky. Like I was spectacularly fortunate in my life, and that's led me to where I am today. And I'm not going to pretend I'm great at creating things or making things, but I am infinitely thankful that I was able to even try. Like so many people just they don't even have the opportunity to try, and I acknowledge the fact that I am where I am today because I was given that opportunity, and I'm incredibly thankful for it.
We're gonna end it there, dude.
Hope you guys enjoyed the show. Watch the next one.
Cheers.